Chapter 161, Hacker Attack. This is our backend data. Zia Shiyu leaned down to press a few buttons on the laptop. Then she turned the screen towards Jiang Chen with a rare, prideful look displayed on her face. It was the server management system, designed by Yao, from which server activities were monitored. 27 million registered users. The number wasn't overly high, considering Future One was a one-person, one-account registration system. Therefore, New Era was linked to Little White, which didn't allow fake accounts. This made it so that the number reflected the number of people actually playing the game, unless they had multiple phones. The reason behind eliminating Smurfs was simple: to avoid having people open multiple accounts with the intent to disturb the economy within the game and use up server resources. New Era operated on one server in the entire country and used cloud computing to transfer calculation data from the client to the server. Even with Yao's magically modified server, there was an inordinate amount of stress placed on it. The peak concurrent users have hit 15.03 million, and the average concurrent user number is 8.14 million. It's nothing short of a miracle. Zia Shiyu couldn't seem to stop talking. What about the profit? Jiang Chen immediately asked. He was concerned about their new revenue model. Would such an innovation fit the market? He knew the game was online for just 2 days, which was too early to tell, but he still couldn't help but ask. Zia Shiyu smiled and clicked the screen. This is the current total auction amount, already exceeding 14 million. With a 5% commission fee, revenue has reached 700,000 within the first 24 hours of operation. So much, Jiang Chen was shocked. He wasn't surprised by the revenue within the last 24 hours, but rather by the auction amount of 14 million. It reflected the people's interest in game spending. And it'll only increase. Zia Shiyu's voice was emotional, her voice trembling. The player's current method of obtaining gold in the game is still slow, making a huge gap in demand. The current ratio of gold to RMB has even risen to a high price of 1 to 5.6. Jiang Chen's initial reaction to Zia Shiyu's words was to pause. He didn't allow joy to overwhelm his thoughts. Rather, he became more cautious. Do you think someone is manipulating the auction house price? Just like with stocks, prop it up high, get players to accumulate gold, and then massively overflood the market. Hearing Jiang Chen raise his concern, Zia Shiyu's eyebrows also tensed. I've already considered this possibility, but for now, the operations department has yet to come up with a workable plan. Some suggested that we follow the rules from the Han stock market and establish a circuit breaker in gold exchange prices to prevent market manipulation. Some proposed establishing a bank organization within the game internally so that once the gold rises above a tolerable range, they would sell or purchase back the gold. But both of these solutions have their own pros and cons and are still under debate. Hearing this, Jiang Chen almost burst out laughing. Are you planning on changing the epic magical genre into a financial one? Zia Shiyu seemed lost. Just joking around. Let's get to the main point. We can look at the broader economic balance in the game. Since the auction house is similar to securities, how could a bunch of game operators come up with a solution? We can follow what Valve did with DOTA 2, hire someone studying finance to monitor the auction house. Hearing his suggestion, Zia Shiyu's eyes lit up. The problem that hounded her was solved with a simple sentence, making her consider him a few more times. Why are you looking at me? Feeling slightly shy from her gaze, Jiang Chen scratched his nose. I just realized that you're actually quite smart. She smiled, and it was like a beautiful flower blossoming on her gorgeous face. Dazzled by this brief glimpse, Jiang Chen jokingly replied, I also just realized that you're quite beautiful when you smile. Zia Shiyu blushed and coughed before hastily changing the topic. IHaveAMansion. On the other hand, based on the current skins available in the store, there has only been 150,000 in revenue, but this number is expected to steadily increase. Also, after the one-time warehouse expansion, just on the first day of operation alone, it managed to rake in an impressive 4.21 million. However, This number is expected to drop as the number of new users decreases. These are the operational results from the past 2 days. As she spoke, Zia Shiyu opened another window to show to Jiang Chen. The revenue from the first 2 days was 10.41 million. Seeing this number, Jiang Chen couldn't help but gasp. From this result, New Era easily destroyed the majority of mobile games that made that much in a month. If they maintained this upward trend in profit and user base, it wouldn't be a stretch to say New Era would break a monthly revenue of 200 million. Subtracting costs and tax expenses, this revenue combined with future ones made Future Technology a megacorporation with a 50 million monthly profit. Jiang Chen was so ecstatic when he heard the news that he immediately declared a bonus of 10,000 to everyone in the operating team. With a boss like you who gives out bonuses so frequently, the project team can just depend on those bonuses. Zia Shiyu smiled at Jiang Chen's ecstatic expression. Jiang Chen laughed. Then the employees would want me to check up on them every day. Just as Zia Shiyu was about to mock him by saying, "Then why don't you come by every day?" the laptop on the table flashed a red alert symbol. Jiang Chen was confused, but Zia Shiyu sighed as if it wasn't a big deal. This already the 12th time today. They were heavily grouped around the morning hours, but then here we go again. Network being infiltrated, Jiang Chen frowned. That's right, it was more frequent yesterday. Zia Shiyu continued. In the beginning, our programmers were highly focused on dealing with the attacks, but when we found that they couldn't even break past the server firewall, we began to ignore it. Speaking of which, how can we get rid of this alert? It always forcefully increases the volume and stays in the middle of the screen. It would be funny if they managed to infiltrate the firewall, Jiang Chen muttered in his mind. I'll get the overseas team to make some adjustments. He only had to have Yao Yao tweak it, very simple. As Jiang Chen and Zia Shiyu ignored the hacking alert on the laptop, in an apartment 100 kilometers away was a man in a black tracksuit. He resembled a zombie with his deep eye sockets as he typed furiously on the keyboard. The veins on his arms were abnormally prominent, and his bloodshot eyes seemed as though they would pop out at any time. A pallid face showed from beneath his hoodie, and with his small figure, he looked underage from all perspectives. The typing speed he demonstrated, however, would embarrass any professional writer. Of course, he was not a professional writer, but rather a hacker. How can this be possible? How can this be possible? Lines of code, or at least lines of error codes, were reflected on his pupils. The typing stopped when the screen flashed multiple red crosses. No matter how many times he tried, it was the same result. They had to have a security team of at least 10 professionals. As soon as his hands left the keyboard, the room quieted down, and all that could be heard was the humming of the computer fans. Can't beat it. Zai Lei raised his head, and he sank into the chair feeling defeated. He stared blankly at the ceiling as he mumbled, "It's only fair. If they could do something as insane as artificial intelligence, there's no way their security would be terrible." Bored, he took out his phone and poked Little White's stomach. Seeing him giggle adorably, Zai Lei genuinely laughed. Honestly, he didn't hold any animosity towards Future Technology. To be able to develop such a fun software. At that moment the phone suddenly rang. When he saw who the caller was, his smile cooled considerably. Caller Black Dragon. "Hello," Zai Lei said grimly upon picking up. "How's the job you're working on?" Black Dragon laughed. Black Dragon was obviously not his name, but if a hacker exposed his identity, it would be the same as stripping naked and running out onto the street. Which of them didn't do anything illegal before? Exposure meant death. With the knowledge that they controlled evidence, Zai Lei's face twisted for a moment before he took a deep breath. Future Technology security is too strong. No matter how hard I try, I can't go around the firewall. You're also in the business. You should know how difficult. "Can't do it," Black Dragon interrupted. "My suggestion is for you to take it more seriously. This is for an important person. Based on our long-standing relationship, I'll give you 20,000 allowances after this is finished." he said slowly. 20,000. Since when are you so generous? Zai mocked. Black Dragon, who was usually too cheap to give a few thousand, was now offering 20,000. The client this time must have offered more than 1,000,000. Don't bullshit me. If you don't want it, fine. I was only pitying you and you mock me. Let me tell you, Green Bird or Zai Lei, if you don't do a good job, just wait for the cops to show up at your door. After finishing, Black Dragon hung up. Taking a deep breath, Zai Lei flung the phone to the side and buried his head between his knees. Green Bird was a renowned name among hackers, but it was useless. The Zai Lei in front of the computer screen was only an ordinary teenager. Damn it! He smashed his fist onto the table. On the phone screen, Little White curled back anxiously. He couldn't see Zai Lei's expression since the camera was covered, but he could detect agony from the sound waves. Just as Zai Lei was despairing, a tiny hand patted his head. Brother, a young girl stood behind him and whispered. Her face was similarly pallid, but it looked graceful in a way that healed when seen. The only unfortunate part was that she had no color in her pupils. She couldn't see. Zai-Lin, his sister. Zai Lei placed his hand on hers and tightly held onto it with a forced smile. Don't worry, brother is here. Even though he knew she couldn't see, he struggled to smile. The girl continued to smile gently. Don't tire yourself out. Seeing the bright smile on his sister's face, there was only remorse in his heart. Listen to brother, I got another deal. The boss is generous and offered 20,000 in compensation. Whoa, brother is so impressive. Her hands clasped together in front of her chest as she slightly opened her mouth in surprise. IHaveAMansion, your brother is really impressive. Therefore, I will heal your eyes. Zai Lei desperately kept his tone normal while his fingers tightly clenched onto the armrests. He was not afraid of going to jail. He was done with Black Dragon's manipulation. But what stopped him from going was his sister Zai-Lin. If he went to jail, his only source of income would disappear. Not only would he be unable to treat her eyes, it would also be difficult to live. He took a deep breath, his mind already made. Although the hope was slim, he had to take a gamble. Chapter 162, Company Gathering. When Jiang Chen announced a bonus of 10,000 for everyone, the employees all began to cheer in joy. Zia Shiyu, who stood beside him, rubbed her face. She whispered, "Didn't you say a bonus only to the New Era project members? How did it become everyone?" Hearing that, Jiang Chen paused before immediately laughing it away. That's fine. Everyone contributed, so everyone should be rewarded. There are a lot of employees in future technology, but no one is an extra. Boss, Chen Lulu in the legal department put her palms together as if she was praying to Jiang Chen. What? Jiang Chen smiled. You look like you're glowing. At the edge of the circle, Su Mengqi stopped clapping along with her colleagues. As she watched Jiang Chen, who was surrounded, there was a different light flashing in her eyes, like a magpie that had just discovered shining jewelry. Girl, are you thinking about someone? Her friend said with a smirk. She stood beside Su Mengqi and poked her friend in the arm. Feng Ying, Su Mengqi murmured, as if she hadn't heard her friend's words. Seeing the lost face on her friend's face, Li Fengying looked at her confusedly. What? Who do you think is prettier? Me and CEO Zia, Su Mengqi said with a pout, her eyes drawn to the person in the center. PSH, wait, you. I have decided, she suddenly clapped her hands, a fighting light burning in her eyes. I've changed my mind. Future Technology had a total of 34 employees. With a bonus of 10,000 per person, that came out to only 340,000. This was a drop of water in the vast sea of Future Technology's future profits. Following the growth of the company, their monthly salary would eventually be far greater than that number. But what Jiang Chen didn't know was that the employees were touched not by the 10,000 bonus, but rather by what he said at the end. There are a lot of employees in Future Technology, but no one is an extra. Nothing else instilled such a sense of belonging as having one's own value recognized. They spent days and nights drafting plans, discussing marketing strategy, and handling the details of the operation. Other than working for the salary, did they not want to be recognized for their values? No one felt this as strongly as Jiang Chen did ever since he was fired at will. He was a small employee working in the sales department of a clothing store. He knew in his heart the powerless feeling that no matter how hard he worked, he would never receive any recognition. Sometimes people were more easily touched than expected. These words were later printed in Future Technology's employee manual, as the company's culture used to encourage new employees. But this is an afterthought. With everyone's moods at an all-time high, Jiang Chen immediately announced a gathering at Xinrong Restaurant, with all expenses paid for by the company. A boss this generous naturally received the praise of the employees. Most people disliked business gatherings, but upon hearing that they would have the opportunity to have a meal with the mysterious but legendary boss, they began to look forward to it. After getting off from work, the group of 30-plus people arrived at Xinrong Restaurant. Befitting its 5-star reputation, Xinrong Restaurant was magnificently built. Zia Shiyu had already reserved a room, so when the restaurant manager saw the crowd of 30 people, he put on his brightest smile and personally ushered them to the private room. He also courteously gave Jiang Chen a VIP card that gave 20% off the tab. The dinner table was a bustling scene. Jiang Chen happily accepted his employees' toasts, but considering that he had to drive, he took care not to drink too much and placed the remainder in the storage dimension. Sitting beside him was the second-in-command, Zia Shiyu. Jiang Chen was surprised to find that she was quite popular in the company as she received many proposed toasts as well. Zia Shiyu accepted them all without refusing a single one, but because of her tolerance, she used a small cup. Regardless, her face turned red after a few shots, which couldn't look more attractive on her. The mood became heightened as Jiang Chen didn't act like a boss at all, boasting instead with the employees about anything and everything. The topic soon turned to personal questions about the internet-famous president's personal life. Everyone was quite curious. "President, let me propose a toast. I wish for your greater success." At this time, Su Mengqi stood and raised her cup with a smile. Based on the alcohol culture in China, it was disrespectful to propose a toast to the boss before the direct manager did so. Because of the lack of employees, however, Future Technology did not yet have an established human resources department, and so Zia Shiyu was in charge of everything. Therefore, Su Mengqi's direct manager should have been Zia Shiyu. But CEO Zia, either from shyness or other concerns, didn't propose a toast to Jiang Chen from the start of the dinner until now, despite sitting beside him. Despite that, Su Mengqi toasting Jiang Chen did not befit the culture. Of course, there was also an unwritten rule that beauties were the exception. "I'll accept your kind words." Jiang Chen stood and also raised his cup before throwing back the drink. Su Mengqi simultaneously finished the drink in her cup, and 2 red clouds appeared on her cheeks. Her watery eyes shimmered. Under the influence of alcohol, she gazed into Jiang Chen's eyes and asked, "President, can I ask you a question?" "Ask away, as long as it's not for my bank password." Jiang Chen laughed as he joked. "Then my question is, does President have anyone he likes?" It was a bold question, drawing a wave of chattering, and the mood at the dinner table was suddenly pushed to a climax. Su Mengqi's face with light makeup began to blush even more under the cheers of her colleagues, but her watery eyes didn't move away. Many people speculated that CEO Zia had feelings for the president, but when she remained unperturbed by the question, people began to question their suspicions. Everyone was already an adult. There was no way she was this reserved. "Yes, President. If you don't tell us because we're men, then shouldn't you reveal some information to the beautiful lady?" "Yes, yes, our Miss Su is already giving you hints, so you should say something." Recalling that the president was still single, the crowd began to root for the two. Su Mengqi was indeed a gorgeous girl, and she seemed interested in the president. Many times it worked out like this. Although they didn't hold strong feelings for each other, under everyone's influence, they would somehow develop feelings for each other. It was a top priority to help the president stay away from the single life. If it ended up working out, their fussing now would become an assistance later. Not only were there benefits, but in the future, it would be a favor. If they ended up getting married with Jiang Chen's generosity, a hefty red envelope would come their way. And even if it didn't end up working out, it was a light jest at the dinner table, so not many thought too deeply on it. For some reason, Zia Shiyu buried her head and poked at her fish, feeling wronged. She had the urge to stand up and do something, but she didn't know exactly what, so she couldn't find a reason to get up. Jiang Chen gave a troubled smile. This was a difficult question to answer. Sun Jiao and Yao Yao were from the other world. Aisha's identity and age were unique, so it wasn't good to expose them. Liu Yao was a celebrity and would not be good to expose as a mistress. FCK, he thought he had so many girls, but not a single one could be brought home for New Year's. Ooh, yes. After careful deliberation, Jiang Chen gave an incredibly vague answer. Even after hearing the response, Su Menqi didn't give up. Just as she was about to ask, "What do you like about her?" Future One's project manager Nin Huajian suddenly stood and proposed a toast with a smile. President Jiang is young but achieved. I have worked in the IT industry for 5 years and have seen a number of industry prodigies. But the only person whom I respect from the bottom of my heart is President Jiang. I'll finish the drink. Nin Huajian chugged the alcohol in his cup and flipped it to show his respect, making the crowd cheer. Jiang Chen understood that Nin Huajian was helping him get out of an awkward situation, so he gladly raised his cup. After Jiang Chen finished his drink, the three sat down. Su Menqi also realized that she was rushing it. Thankfully, Nin Huajian saved her from persisting, or else she would have committed the taboo of putting her boss in a difficult situation. Besides Su Menqi's anxious emotions, Zia Shiyu's heart was also turbulent. She recalled the scene during the last press conference. At that time, Jiang Chen seemed to have indicated that he didn't like anyone. But there was someone. Who could it be? He barely showed up at the company this month and barely saw her. Could it be someone he met overseas on a business trip? Why do I care about his personal life? Just as Zia Shiyu was in a mental quandary, the topic at the table switched directions. CEO Zia, thank you for your support and guidance. Let me propose a toast to you. Jiang Chen gently poked Zia Shiyu with his elbow. Okay. As if waking from a dream, Zia Shiyu hastily stood and raised her cup. Jiang Chen looked at Zia Shiyu, perplexed. It was rare to see such a frantic expression on her face. In this relatively harmonious atmosphere, the dinner came to an end. Chapter 163. Please close your eyes at night. After the closing remarks of the boss, the dinner officially concluded. People began to leave and started to head home. The total spending was 70,000. Jiang Chen swiped his card without a blink of an eye. But just as he was about to leave, he realized that someone was still there. Zia Shiyu was leaning on the table. Her blood-red blush could be faintly seen on her half-exposed face. She looked like she drank too much. Seeing this, Jiang Chen helplessly let out a sigh and walked towards her. For some strange reason, the girl somehow started to drink shot after shot and got herself drunk. She didn't cause a scene after becoming drunk, as she just quietly lied on the table till now. No one forced you to drink. Did you think you were drinking water? Who? Jiang Chen put her arms around his neck and used a slight amount of force to lift her up onto his back. Feeling the softness on his back, Jiang Chen's face turned red. Although they were not big, they were surprisingly soft. He quickly coughed to hide his awkwardness as he cleared his mind. Avoiding the dubious look of the waitress, he quickly secured her on his back and left through the door. I am not drunk, taxi. Yes, that's what all drunk people say. The warm breath on his neck made his mind go elsewhere, especially coupled with the softness on his back. It was making him lose his mind. He suppressed the wild thoughts in his mind as he strenuously stuffed Zia Shiyu into the front passenger seat and put the seatbelt on her. When his finger unintentionally slid across her silky waist, He gulped, urged back any more unintentional moves, and closed the door. He started the car and drove his Maybach to Xingchuan Community. The smell of alcohol began to rise in the car. Jiang Chen glanced at the completely passed-out girl as he sighed and murmured, "You know you are very attractive right now." Zia Shiyu ambiguously muttered something, but it was probably just her sleep talking. Because he was afraid that she would get cold from the wind, Jiang Chen let the alcohol smell build up in the car and didn't open the window. Finally bringing this girl to her front door, Jiang Chen couldn't care more as he used his free hand to search her body, before finding the key and opening the door. He dragged Zia Shiyu, who was drunk like a pile of mud, into her place before he finally got a chance to breathe. But just as he was about to leave, he froze in place. Her white neck was a soft shade of red. Her slightly messy hair partially covered her gorgeous celebrity-like face. Her bright red lips were parted, breathing a warm but intoxicating smell, her delicate eyebrows furrowed due to discomfort. Seeing Zia Shiyu's letting her guard completely down, Jiang Chen gulped and took a subtle step forward. If he did something now, she probably wouldn't know. But just as the devil-like thought emerged in his mind, he refocused, scared by his own thought. He quickly took 2 deep breaths and forcefully shook his head. Jiang Chen helped her take off her suit, and then to make her more comfortable, he unbuttoned the first button on her button-down shirt. After doing all this, he put the sheet on her before sneaking out from the room. He poured himself a cup of water in the kitchen. The cold sensation of water passing through his stomach calmed his heart. After standing for a moment, he looked at the clock on the wall. 10:32. It's already this late. Jiang Chen yawned as the feeling of confliction rose. Xingchuan Community was in the complete opposite direction of Minxing Community. If he drove back now, it would be 12 before he arrived at home. Besides, he was already so tired that he really didn't want to drive an hour back. Stay here for the night. Jiang Chen gulped, as it was an enticing thought. I did carry her back. It would be okay if I stayed without her permission for one night, right? Thinking, Jiang Chen took out his phone and texted a message to Aisha. I am busy tonight, I won't be back. There. Jiang Chen let out a long breath of air. He then stretched and scanned the 2-story apartment. There was a bedroom on the 2nd floor, but probably never cleaned out since only Zia Shiyu lived here. Looks like I am sleeping on the sofa tonight. I'll take a shower first. Jiang Chen muttered as he walked to the bathroom. Within the mansion, Aisha had her leg placed on the bar as she gently leaned her body forward, her chin slightly touching her knees. The elegant posture was not only difficult but also aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. Only such exercises could stretch the tendons in the leg to increase the flexibility of the body. This was something genetic vaccine did not provide. Flexibility was one of the most common things that benefited her in all areas, such as fighting, such as doing other certain things. But suddenly, the light bulb went out. Power outage. Aisha's movement stopped. With her body still pressed against her leg, she quietly listened. She didn't rush to check the circuit as she smelled something odd. Her cat-like pupils slightly narrowed in the darkness, giving off a dangerous vibe. As if she had found her prey. Since he couldn't break through the firewall, he could only capture the program developer and figure out the code the hard way. Xin Lei's bloodshot eyes reflected the light on the screen. His lips rose slightly under his hoodie as he spoke in a screeching voice into the Bluetooth headphone. The security system is hacked. Your personal information is whitelisted. For a hacker that is ranked 3rd in HUA and had been flagged on the front page of some unscrupulous organizations, this type of security was too easy for him. Though he hasn't done these types of things without pay for a long time. Confirmed. A female voice came from under the hood of a purple tracksuit. Yan Xiaoyan, the childhood honey of Zai Lei. She has a black belt in Taekwondo, even though she is only 17. Her swift moves could easily beat 5-6 adults. Due to her affection towards Zai Lei, she agreed to this dangerous plan without much hesitation. It's taken care of, let's go. She waved at the 2 people behind her, and Yan Xiaoyan led the way to the high-end community. Lu Dahu, known as the Chubby Tiger, is a good friend of Zai Lei. He was 3 years older, spent a few years in the military, and is currently unemployed. Zhang Kao, also Zai Lei's good friend. They met a long time ago on the internet. He was around the same age as Zai Lei. Although he lacked knowledge about computers, he was a huge fan of the military. He was not tall but was skillful with almost all military gadgets. After Zai Lei confessed his trouble, they agreed without hesitation. The plan was simple: sneak into the mansion, control Jiang Chen, drive his car and take him out of the community to the agreed-on spot. They only had 1.5 hours. Once the clock hit 12, the server would reset, and the access control gained by Zai Lei would be lost. His eyes locked onto the screen as Zai Lei already infiltrated the camera within the community. Seeing his 3 friends successfully pass identification at the front door and walk inside of the mansion, he took a deep breath and pressed a few more buttons. The memory of the camera connected to the server was erased, the right function disabled. The camera tonight would not record anything. Once they left, they only needed to delete their personal information from the server, as if they were never there. Zai Lei knew that he and his friends were playing with fire. If they were accidentally caught, all of them would go to jail. People here are all veteran soldiers. Lu Dahu lowered his hat as he mumbled. Aren't you a veteran as well? Zhao Qian with a backpack mocked. It's different. Lu Dahu forced a smile, as his square-looking face looked rather helpless. Based on the vibe I'm getting, they were at least special forces from the army. Be quiet, Yan Xiaoyan, half a step in front of them, whispered. Zai Lin's fingers typed on the keyboard. He constantly changed between cameras while drawing with his right hand and marking the route of the patrol team. Turn right in the front, avoid patrol team A, walk straight into the intersection before turning left. Try to avoid contact with anyone, your guys look odd. Understood. Yan Xiaoyan lowered her voice as she held onto the Bluetooth earphone. She then signaled the 2 people behind her to quickly move to the street on the right. Although they already passed the check at the front door, wandering around this late would easily cause suspension. They were not prepared to be questioned, because the backpack Zhang Kao carried had all the tools for crime. 3 sticks, handcuffs, ropes, 3 night vision goggles, and 1 signal jammer. Zhang Kao bought everything from an exclusive channel. They were all authentic product from IHaveAMansion Corporation, which shocked Lu Dahu, the veteran soldier. Of course, Zai Lei paid for it. The 3 of them sneaked into the mansion, at the deepest part of the community. The European-style high wall, the cut green grass, and the straight brick trail. The building's structure shone with elegance. Damn it, people here must be ridiculously wealthy. Do you think there are bodyguards inside? Zhang Kao mustered as he took off his backpack. If there are any, I'll take care of it, the girl in the purple suit said confidently. She pressed the earphone again. We are in position. Okay, Zai Lei took a deep breath and clicked his tongue. Sparks suddenly came out of the generator on the north side. In an instant, the entire community fell into darkness. With fingers on the keyboard, he simultaneously locked the electrical room's password so that even if they started the backup generator, it would take a while. He had to thank the highly digitalized design of the community. If it were a mechanical lock, there would be nothing that he could do. Without wasting a second, Yan Xiaoyan took out a card from her pocket and swiped it on the metal gate. Zai Lei, who already acquired the password information from the database and had copied the key onto the black card. The card in her hand was equivalent to the actual key and easily opened the door. Quick, put this on. Zhang Kao excitedly threw the night vision goggles and sticks into their hands and put one on his hand skillfully as well. The night vision goggle not only allowed them to obtain vision in the dark, but it also hid their faces. They quickly sneaked into the mansion and approached the door. Pressing against the door, Zhang Kao took out a lock-pick and opened the door with a few clicks. Then he signaled the 2 companions to enter. The mansion looked rather empty. There was no one on the first floor. Based on the lights they saw from the outside, There should be people on the third floor. The three quietly waited against the wall. The electric valve was outside. If someone came down to check, they must pass by where they stood. Why is there no noise at all? Typically, shouldn't they all check the valve? Lu Dahu's eyebrows tightened as he said with his voice lowered. Yan Zioyan also raised her eyebrows. Not only were there no footsteps heard upstairs, but there was also no lights from a phone or candle. Could it be that Jiang Chen was already asleep and just forgot to turn off the lights? Let's go to the bedroom. Yan Zioyan suppressed her voice as she led the way, sneaking upstairs. It would be up to them once they enter the mansion. The camera in the community could not monitor inside the mansion, as it was for the consideration of residents' privacy. The mansion was in a frightening darkness. But the darker it was, the more advantageous it was for them since they had night vision goggles. The camera in the community was installed with internal batteries so that even though the power went out, it could still last for a few more hours. Seeing his friends have already entered the mansion, Zilei let out a sigh and leaned against the chair. Now just need to catch Jiang Chen, get the firewall security code from his mouth, hack into new era server, and delete the user information and gate data clean. Pity, the game is not bad. He shook his head, stared at the open gate, and mustered arrogantly. Please close your eyes at night. Chapter 164. Is there a need to have a reason? Translator, Min Editor, Rundi. Water poured down. Jiang Chen closed the knob before he shook off the droplets of water on his head. He then walked out of the shower as he grabbed a towel beside him and wiped himself. It felt much better after the shower, as if all the alcohol and weariness was washed away. But the faint fragrance in the room put him in an awkward spot physiologically. He thought while he wiped his hair with the towel. But as he wiped, his hand froze in the air. This is Ziashiyu's towel. Thinking that towel once covered a pure blossoming flower and countlessly wiped the mists off of the leaves. He stared at the towel in his hand as Jiang Chen's expression on his face suddenly turned awkward. But at this time, a blurry but shaky figure suddenly appeared on the opaque glass in the washroom. Jiang Chen, who realized what happened, was about to stop her before the bathroom door was pushed open first. Go. Seeing the haggard Ziashiyu arduously holding on the door frame, just as she was about to come in, she was stunned at the doorstep. The cynical thing that appeared in her field of vision made her briefly lost her ability to think. It was hard to describe the expression on her face, should it be wry, shocked, or humiliated. The air of silence filled the air between the two. Hi, Jiang Chen first broke the silence rigidly. He moved the towel to cover the inexplicable part while keeping a straight face. Perhaps maybe she was drunk, or perhaps the image was too shocking. Ziashiyu didn't scream, but rather she calmed down and silently closed the door. Looking at the closed door, a bitter smile appeared on Jiang Chen's face. Maybe I should have screamed. Since he already used and also was seen, might as well finish drying himself. Jiang Chen shameless dried his entire body, then washed her towel before putting his clothes back on. He then left the bathroom. He turned to the living room as Ziashiyu was already sitting on the sofa. When Jiang Chen came out, her vision immediately gazed onto him. Just as Jiang Chen was mentally prepared for the pervert, sick-minded, the expected anger did arrive. Are you going to ask me something? He felt a bit frightened by Ziashiyu's silence. Jiang Chen careful sat across from her as he said apologetically. Ziashiyu still didn't say anything. With the aid of the moonlight, it was visible that, on the usually cold face, the bright red lips were slightly trembling. Because she is so angry she couldn't express it. Jiang Chen drilled deep into his mind and still couldn't figure out the current mood of this girl. The prideful ice beauty realized after waking up that she was lying on the bed, with clothes slovenly, the first button of the dress shirt unbuttoned, and also a man, pervert, using her washroom to take a shower, using the towel that she had always used. From any perspective, she must not be in the best mood. You were drunk, Jiang Chen awkwardly tried to explain. With the direct stare, Jiang Chen didn't know if she was thinking or mooning out. You were sleeping on the table, so I carried you back on my back. Your car is still there. Remember to drive it back tomorrow. Seeing Zia Shiyu did not react, Jiang Chen continued. Why? Seemed like she reacted to this sentence. Zia Shiyu murmured as if she was whispering in her dream. Why? Is that even a question? Jiang Chen had a bitter smile. I can't leave you there by yourself. You live alone and you drank yourself like that. Be more cautious next time. If a human trafficker is pretending to be someone to be close to you, you don't even know if you were sold to some desolate mountain areas. Hearing this, Zia Shiyu looked over and made eye contact with Jiang Chen. After a long silence, even to her disbelief, she asked, "Then would you come to save me?" He was shocked by the sudden question. Jiang Chen thought for a glimpse. Yes. Why? It was still the dreamy mutter. Expectation, or perhaps just confusion. Does there need to be a reason? Jiang Chen sighed as he asked rhetorically. Humans were never a pure logical animal. What's the point of excessive need for reasons? Zia Shiyu was not pleased with Jiang Chen's response. The graceful top lip bit on the bottom one. The rather blank expression seemed like she still hasn't gained a clear mind. Seeing that she hadn't said anything, Jiang Chen coughed and gently said, "You are drunk. Don't drink this much in the future. Now go get some rest." Although he didn't know what she was so fixated about, based on this response, she was not angry. She stood up wobbling, just as Jiang Chen let a sigh thinking she was going back to the room to sleep. She moved across and stood in front of him. Who do you like?" The voice carried some intoxication, but the tone certainly carried CEO Zia's authority. The random questions threw Jiang Chen off. He forced a smile and didn't answer. He didn't know how to answer. After the last press conference, he already had a sense for Zia Shiyu's feelings towards him. Although she always put on a cold expression that kept people 1,000 miles away, her heart was still that of a child. As to why he said that, it was because only a child would believe coldness meant maturity. If it were someone without boundary, it wouldn't whatever but Zia Shiyu. She definitely would not accept him being with other women, or should we say any normal women would not. Jiang Chen asked himself. He certainly had feelings for her, but his feelings were just beginning to develop. As to giving up something for her, he could not do it. Jiang Chen hesitantly opened his mouth, but the words were stuck in his throat. I don't want to hear it. She shook her head as her slightly messy but luscious hair waved. Suddenly, she made a move that completely left Jiang Chen dumbfounded. A delicate hand reached out as two fingers audaciously squeezed his chin. Jiang Chen stared at the pair of crystal-clear eyes. Her mouth opened slightly, and she moved in closer. His conscience told him she was drunk, you should wake her up. But seeing the approaching, blushing, attractive face, he could not say a single word. The devil-like thought spun in his head as Jiang Chen gulped. She is the one being proactive, if I pretend I don't know. But suddenly, an untimely ringtone disrupted this tranquil moment. Zia Shiyu's action stopped abruptly. The misty eyes regained a hint of clarity as she looked at Jiang Chen ever so close to her. I'll take a phone call. Jiang Chen got up and escaped. Zia Shiyu froze blankly there. Her face began to turn red. Even under the not-so-bright moonlight, it was apparent. What did I do? Fine droplets of sweat began to surface on her heated body. The alcohol evaporated with the sweat as she began to sober up. Without thinking, she dashed into the bedroom without turning around. Bam! The door slamming sound transmitted behind him as Zia Shiyu fled into the bedroom. Jiang Chen forced a smile as he looked at the phone. It was Aisha. Jiang Chen put his hand against the wall as he picked up the phone. Hello. He sensed some strangeness to Aisha calling him now. With a stick in her hand, Yan Zioyan gently pushed open the door. No one was there. She shook her head at the teammate behind her, signaling Lu Dahu to walk to the adjacent bedroom. Even if she carefully controlled her footsteps, the contact between her runners and the expensive wooden floor made a faint sound. Because they didn't know which bedroom Jiang Chen slept in, they had to use the dumbest method, which was to search the rooms one by one. Jiang Chen stayed on the first floor to prevent Jiang Chen from escaping. At the same time, he opened the signal jammer to prevent the target from calling the police. In the spacious living room, Jiang Chen scanned his surroundings. The bright green vision in the night vision goggles made the darkness not so frightening. Seeing the home theater on the wall, he was shocked. 85 inches 4K smart TV, as well as the TV screen. This at least cost upwards of $500,000, he mustered in his mind as he felt anxious. It was his first time kidnapping, and they were just not kidnapping an ordinary person. They were kidnapping the wealthy and influential president of future technology. He could only pray that Yan Xiaoyan was clean with her moves, and their faces won't be revealed to Jiang Chen. Or else, Jiang Chen had hundreds of ways to make sure they never live in Wangai City again. Just as he was still debating in his mind, something forcefully struck the back of his neck. Before he could react, he lost his conscience and fell to the ground. On the other side, Yan Xiaoyan was already on the third floor. To increase efficiency, she and Lu Dahu decided to advance separately. Just as she got to the gym, the room that previously had the lights on, she felt suddenly alerted. Without thinking, she immediately swept the stick behind her. The sound of air breaking echoed as the hit obviously missed. Easily dodging the strike, Aisha, with a grim look, moved. When she thought the situation couldn't get any worse, Yan Xiaoyan immediately kicked up her leg and blocked the lightning-fast roundhouse kick. Ouch! Sharp pain transmitted from her legs. Cold sweat began to drop from Yan Xiaoyan's forehead as fear began to overwhelm her. They were not on the same level. She was part of the national competition before, but even in the championship match, she never felt such powerful force. Yan Xiaoyan quickly moved back, but she was already backed up against the window. The pristine moonlight shed into the room as she felt her vision increase drastically. She pulled off the annoying night vision goggles, only leaving the mask on her face. Yan Xiaoyan stared at the girl approaching her. The girl was not tall, she could even be described as tiny. Her wavy hair was tied into a ponytail. She had an exotic, gorgeous face, but all these factors were not critical. What made Yan Xiaoyan frantic was the grim-looking eyes. They were looking at her as if she was a dead body. The desire to kill was immense. Chapter 165, A Farce. Hearing noise coming from the gym, Lu Dahu quickly rushed over. When he saw Yan Xiaoyan confronting Aisha, he held his breath and sneaked up behind her in an attempt to choke her from behind. Yan Xiaoyan also held her breath when she saw Lu Dahu approach Aisha from the back. Her heart was about to jump out. When she thought the plan was about to work, she saw a sneer from the corner of Aisha's mouth. She moved like a leopard. The girl turned around and performed a roundhouse kick. The swift action directly landed on Lu Dahu's unguarded chest. The power, disproportionate to her size, kicked the almost 200 pounds, well-built man away. Yan Xiaoyan looked at the scene in disbelief, as the hand carrying the stick shook uncontrollably. Although she held a weapon in hand, it did not bring her the slightest sense of safety. However, she didn't back down. Aisha looked at her in silence. Then, grabbing the box-shaped signal jammer from her back, she turned off the power. Static Xiaoyan, how's the progress going? Seeing the communication channel was restored, Zai Lei desperately asked. Lei, I might, Yan Xiaoyan said with bitterness in her voice. But before she finished her sentence, the communication channel ceased again. Aisha restarted the signal jammer, tossed the device away, and opened the EP on her wrist. The wireless tracker in her pocket already sent the communication information to the EP. It marked 2 related red dots on the EP map. Utilizing the brief window when the communication channel was restored, she located the commander's coordinates. The magic of future technology was something these primitives would never understand. Yan Xiaoyan was shaking when she saw Aisha's series of moves. She didn't know what she was doing. The calmness before had completely vanished. The confidence she built based on her fighting ability was quickly shattered by the clean moves of the girl in front of her. But for him, Yan Xiaoyan's eyes were reignited with courage when she thought of Zai Lei. She gritted her teeth and dashed at Aisha, kicking with lightning speed. Since she was at a disadvantage in terms of defense, she must attack. This kick was aimed directly at Aisha's head. But the girl remained calm. Unlike what Yan Xiaoyan had imagined, she easily dodged her kick. Then, with cat-like agility, Aisha was behind her. As Yan Xiaoyan had guessed, they were not on the same level. Before she was able to react, a sharp pain came from the back of her neck, making her lose consciousness. She immediately fell to the ground. "There, someone attacked the mansion," Aisha concisely reported. Jiang Chen's expression changed immediately. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay." The attackers had some creative ideas, but the techniques they used were that of an amateur's. Based on the skill levels of those people, they must have someone strong assisting them to avoid the patrol team. Based on initial speculation, that person should be a hacker proficient in cyber warfare, Aisha said softly as she looked grimly at the three people lying in the basement with their hands and feet tied up. Hearing Aisha was safe, Jiang Chen was relieved, but then he quickly realized that his worry was a bit unwarranted. After deliberating for a moment, Jiang Chen asked in an undertone, "Do you know who sent them there?" "Not clear yet, but I already have the coordinates of the hacker. I'll send it to you by phone." I'll take care of it." Jiang Chen hung up the phone. Shortly after, Little White shook as a picture of the coordinates were sent to Jiang Chen's phone. Two dots were connected. One dot was located in his mansion, while the other one was located in the rural area of Wangai City. He looked in the direction of Zia Shiyu's bedroom and hesitated. But in the end, he sighed. He decided not to go up and knock on the door. Instead, he put on his shoes and left the apartment. There, with her back against the cold wooden door, Zia Shiyu hugged her knees as she buried her head in her arms. However, through her arms, the red hue on her gorgeous face could still be seen. "Woo, I want to die. What did I just do?" A soft whimper escaped her mouth as her ostrich-like head buried deeper between her legs. Her thoughts were a mess. The furious pounding in her left chest was too distracting. What if he knocks on the door? Should I open it? But I almost just did that kind of thing. I want to die. This is so embarrassing. But I should open the door. It would be rude just to leave him hanging in the living room. If I explained, it would get rid of the bang. The sound of the door closing transmitted through from the outside. Zia Shiyu paused for a moment as she slowly lifted her head up. Seemed to be the front door. He left. He just left. While she let out a sigh of relief, for some reason she felt disappointed. But as to why she felt disappointed, she couldn't give a reason. There, driving furiously on the road, Jiang Chen glanced at the red dot on the GPS before he fixated his gaze back onto the road. He let out a sigh as he held onto the wheel. "It would be better to find a chance and talk to her," he mumbled. Jiang Chen turned the steering wheel before parking the car near the target's community. Since it was a hacker proficient in cyber warfare, the community's cameras should be under their control. Definitely a possibility. Jiang Chen locked the door and walked towards the back door of the community. It was almost 12. Only a few windows in the community still had their lights on. He avoided a few obvious cameras as he approached the electric substation of the target's building. He opened the box and put his right hand inside, charging the interdimensional bracelet. The energy of the bracelet was suddenly full. The brute intake of electric current instantly exceeded the threshold value of the substation. Without a doubt, the entire building lost power. A mocking smile appeared on Jiang Chen's face. He closed the box, put his hands in his pocket and walked into the shadow. It was 12 at night. People who were still awake and desperately wanting to restore the power rather than going to sleep would probably be the only ones providing assistance. Regardless who it was, he only needed for the fish to take the bait. There, Zai Lei's eyes locked onto the screen as he nervously waited for his companion's response. The communication signal was interrupted. Did they get caught? Can't be. If they did, they would use the phone to communicate with me, the perpetrator. Damn it, Zai Lei's fist slammed onto the table. He did not consider a backup plan. He never thought about the changing variables within the plan. He started to regret the tracksuits. Even if he was out of solutions, he never should have come up with kidnapping. The evidence Black Tiger controlled would at max get him 10 years, but kidnapping. His face turned pale as he prayed. Zioyan Chubby Tiger Ziacho, please be safe, please. But then the entire building suddenly lost power. This made the already tense Zai Lei jump. The fuse short-circuited. Can't be a power outage. There was no notice posted, he mustered as Zai Lei left his seat. In the assumption that someone was caught, the opposing force must have obtained my location through interrogation. Then, I should have been caught already. The door definitely won't be able to block anyone. However, since no one is here, that means they should not have been caught but entered into a stalemate with the target. Without electricity, there was nothing he could do. Regardless, he must quickly restore power. Once it passes 12, the server would reset. If he wanted to provide support, he must hack into the server again. Zai Lei left the room. Squeaka. He carefully opened the door, cautiously looking into the pitch-black hallway. When he didn't see anyone, Zai Lei let out an uneasy breath. Am I being too anxious? It made sense. If they already knew my location, what's the whole point of using the trick of cutting the power? But what he didn't know was that in the near-distant future, there would be a device that could locate communication signals. A device used by future snipers. Though, of course, there will be signal jammers in the future, but right now, it was as easy as breathing for Aisha to location the coordinates of the communicator. The night's breeze was quite chilly. The pale hand of the teen tightened the zipper of his tracksuit. His entire face was hidden under the shadow of the hoodie. It was already autumn. Maybe it was time to buy Zai Lin some thicker clothes. When he thought about his sister, a gentle smile appeared on his face. Although the first reaction of most people was gloom when they first see him, she was the only one that didn't think so. Just like an angel. Yes, that's right, I will protect my sister. He screamed in his mind as the sudden adrenaline pushed away some of his fear. He went downstairs and headed straight to the electric substation that he was so familiar with. He opened the box but was stunned. Not right. He knew what a short fuse looked like, but he didn't see the entire meter being burnt out. You are the perpetrator behind the scenes, a sluggish voice said from behind him. Zai Lei turned his head and saw a young man standing there with his hands in his pocket. He was observing him with interest in his eyes. Your left foot moved half a step back. I guess you want to run, but I suggest you don't do that. Jiang Chen sighed. Seeing his thoughts exposed, Zai Lei became calm as he locked his eyes right onto Jiang Chen. Zioyan, you caught all my friends. You can say that. My bodyguard's comment about you guys was, it was well thought out but clumsily executed. Jiang Chen laughed before continuing, first time doing this. Zai Lei didn't answer. His mind spun furiously as he desperately tried to think of a way to escape. What was the intention of entering my mansion? If you don't answer, I will just default it to murder. Trust me, I have enough money to convince the judges. Kidnap? To obtain the key to the server. Zai Lei squeezed out a few words in vain. Threatening worked. His face was extremely pale. It looked like that of someone who hadn't been outside for a long time. Around 1.6 m tall, he had a slim build and looked like a teen. Jiang Chen couldn't comprehend why this teen he has never met before wanted to kidnap him. For money, or for other reasons. I don't want to use the truth-telling liquid on teens. It will have an uncontrollable effect on the developing brain, Jiang Chen mocked, but his tone held a hint of truth. You are Jiang Chen, Zai Lei abruptly asked. Jiang Chen shrugged. Did you just realize? I recommend you answer my question before I use force. Zai Lei let out a sigh as he confessed, Black Tiger made me do this. Jiang Chen's eyebrows raised as he didn't immediately believe his words. Who is Black Tiger? Zai Lei laughed in agony. I don't know. If I knew, I would not be manipulated by him. Chapter 166. I can give you a chance. For your friend's safety, I have no choice but to invite you to take a walk with me. It was useless to object as Jiang Chen said this with an unrefusable tone. Zai Lei's eyes strained for a moment before his shoulders finally loosened. I can go with you. Could you give me 10 minutes? That depends on what you are going to do with this 10 minutes. He took a deep breath as Zai Lei said, Don't worry, just leaving a note. He thought for a moment. As Jiang Chen didn't refuse his request, he got a go-ahead gesture. Seeing Jiang Chen agreed, the teen was relieved and turned around to go upstairs. Jiang Chen's hands were in his pocket when he followed the teen up, holding onto a pistol. But the teen didn't play any tricks with him. He took out the key, opened the old-looking door, and walked inside into the room closest to the door. Zai Lei took out the phone and turned on the flashlight, which lit up the small room immediately. 4 desktops, 2 screens, wires tangled together and connected to unknown electronic equipment. Your work, Jiang Chen was slightly shocked. IHaveAMansion. Zai Lei didn't seem to want to say anything else about the question as he answered concisely. He saw that the teen searched on the table for a while before picking up an MP3. It was uncommon to see such an out-of-date device. He seemed to have opened the voice recording function as he put the MP3 close to his mouth and said, Lin, I am sorry. Brother has to go somewhere really far. Although it is a bit shameless to say this, please forgive your unresponsible brother. Are you saying your will? Jiang Chen laughed. Zai Lei ignored Jiang Chen as he took a deep breath and continued to say a few more things, such as, take care of yourself, and the bank password is. Done? Jiang Chen asked. Although Jiang Chen felt sympathetic, he didn't plan on letting him off. Since he already committed to the act, he must have been mentally prepared for the plan to fail. Zai Lei nodded as he looked seriously at Jiang Chen. I'm done. My sister is blind. I hope you don't hurt her. Don't worry, I don't hurt the innocent. Without saying anything else, Zai Lei obediently followed Jiang Chen to the car and then to the mansion. The power outage in the community caused quite a commotion, especially since they found out it was caused by human intervention. After the security confirmed the safety of every resident, they were surprised to find out there was no thief. Regardless, it was a good thing that nothing was lost, since people who lived here were either influential or wealthy. If something did happen, then Wanhua Real Estate's reputation would suffer major damages. Therefore, after confirming each household, they categorized this power outage as an accident and did not inform the police. The power was restored. At the same time, in the basement of the mansion, Aisha crossed her arms in front of her chest as she looked expressionlessly at the 3 people with their hands tied behind their backs. Looking at her cold gaze, Yan Xiaoyan felt her body shake uncontrollably. She had never been so frightened before. The fighting ability she had been so proud of could not last 2 moves in front of this girl. At the time, footsteps came from upstairs. The iciness in Aisha's eyes suddenly melted. Yan Xiaoyan gulped as she looked with disbelief at the eyes that turned gentle instantly. You are back, Aisha stood up. IHaveAMansion. Jiang Chen rubbed her head and then looked at the 3 people in the basement. Lei, how did you? Yan Xiaoyan couldn't control her voice. No one revealed his location. How did he get caught? I got caught. Zai Lei revealed a bitter smile as he conscientiously extended both of his hands to Jiang Chen. Tie me up. Jiang Chen glanced at him as he signaled Aisha to put handcuffs on him. Then he looked at all 4 of them. Good. Since all the rats are caught, let's solve this problem once and for all. Then Jiang Chen took out the truth-telling liquid from his pocket, passed it to Aisha, and stared at Zai Lei. I ask, you answer. If I feel you are lying, then I'll use the truth-telling liquid. The interrogation began. Zai Lei, without resistance, confessed to everything Jiang Chen asked. First, it was the identities of the 4. Veteran, unemployed military fanatic, female sports university student, and Zai Lei, the high school dropout hacker. Zai Lei was quite impressive in his ability. Known as Green Bird, he placed third place within the Han Hacker Alliance. The most impressive achievement was hacking into an unscrupulous organization's server for 2 years consecutively and raising the flag on its homepage. Usually, he lived off of commission by completing missions for hire. Because of one mistake, a hacker called Black Tiger obtained his identity, which directly ended his brief career. Then he became the money-making tool of Black Tiger. The missions he accepted began to leave the boundary of the law. He was not afraid of going to jail, but what worried him most was his blind sister. If Black Tiger revealed his information, he would definitely be in there for quite a long time. He could not imagine, without him, how his sister would survive. After feeling conflicted for a long time, he decided to take this risk along with his 3 good friends. He decided to plan and execute a kidnap. Unfortunately, it failed. You guys are great friends. He asked you guys to kidnap and you guys agree. Would you guys murder people if he asked you to? Jiang Chen looked mischievously at the 3 as he laughed. Zhao Chang retracted his neck, frightened by Jiang Chen's look, but Lu Dahu seemed calm. Then Jiang Chen looked at the university student named Yan Zioyan. You, seeing that your boyfriend is in trouble, you could risk going to jail for him. Yan Zioyan blushed. Just as she was about to argue they were only childhood sweetheart, Zai Lei interrupted. I already told you everything I needed to tell you. I am willing to take full responsibility as long as you let my friends go. After he finished, Zai Lei slowly lowered his head and kneeled on the ground. Everyone held their breath. Hearing that, Yan Zioyan wanted to defend for him, but she quickly realized that she had no excuse to do so. Including herself, they were all criminals. Jiang Chen expressionlessly overlooked Zai Lei. Do you think you have the right to discuss terms with me? No, Zai Lei lowered his head. After a brief silence, Jiang Chen suddenly began laughing. Although this comical gong show did not cause me any material losses, that doesn't mean I am open-minded enough to let you go consequence-free. But considering you were under the threat of someone else, I can give you a chance. I am willing to accept as long as you let my friends go. Lei, Yan Zioyan looked at Zai Lei with tears in her eyes. Oh, are you not going to ask what it is before accepting? I will accept anything. This is my own fault. I don't want to trouble my friends anymore. Zai Lei took a deep breath as he said calmly. Hearing that, Jiang Chen nodded, looking rather pleased. Since you have agreed, then your request is easy. After everything is done, your friends can leave. Jiang Chen paused as he asked lightheartedly. How do you usually communicate with Black Tiger? By phone. Chapter 167, Following the Vine. Black Tiger, real name Zhang Hao. A premium member of the Han Hacker Alliance, but his skill was rather ordinary. However, by coincidence, he managed to enter the personal computer of the renowned Green Bird and collected some critical evidence. When Zai Lei found out, it was too late. Zhang Hao already saved the information and pulled the cord. It was the most shameless way, but that was the most effective way. Regardless of how insane one's computer skill was, there was nothing one can do if the other person doesn't connect to the web. After that, he had reached the peak of his life. He controlled the personal information of the third-ranked hacker in the Han Hacker Alliance. He used this to blackmail him into completing challenging missions, and then collecting the lucrative commission for himself. Not long ago, he received a deal. 5 million RMB commission. The mission was to hack into New Era S server, delete all user information, and delete the game data inside the game server. 5 million. It was enough to live half of his life in comfort. Black Tiger's eyes immediately turned red as he accepted the mission without hesitation, and then flung it to the hands of Zai Lei and threatened him to complete it. As to if Zai Lei had the ability to finish this mission, Black Tiger never questioned it for a single second. In his eyes, if he could hack into the server of an organization with a notorious reputation, there was no way he couldn't take care of a server of a private enterprise. But unfortunately, Zai Lei was completely out of sorts. When he was forced into the corner, Zai Lei had to take the riskiest route. And because of this, Zai Lei managed to get himself into serious trouble. In the morning, what woke Black Tiger from his sweet dream was his ringtone. He drowsily picked up the phone. "Hello? Do?" The phone hung up. Black Tiger was lost for a moment as he looked confusingly at the phone. However, he didn't bother finding out who it was as he fell asleep again. What he didn't know was, the second he picked up the phone, his coordinates were marked on a map. The person named Black Tiger was also in Wangai City. This saved Jiang Chen quite a bit of trouble. He drove the car onto the highway as he looked at the dot on the GPS. A mocking smile appeared on his face. Aisha was sitting in the front passenger seat, her long eyelashes swept together and eyes closed as she rested. Zai Lei sat in the back seat. The teen took off his hood and revealed a sickly pale face with anxiousness written all over it. As well, on his neck, he wore an electronic collar. "Now that you are on your way to see your enemy, how do you feel?" Jiang Chen casually asked. "If possible, I want to punch him," Zai Lei mustered in a small voice. "Haha, you'll have the chance," Jiang Chen smiled. Yan Xiaoyan and the gang were still locked in the mansion's basement. Before the whole event is resolved, they weren't allowed to leave. As to Zai Lei, he already reached an agreement with Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen won't go after his friends, and in exchange, he'll work for Jiang Chen for the next 10 years. Jiang Chen needed a talent capable of cyber warfare. Although Yao Yao's computer skill was impeccable, he couldn't bring it over to the modern world. 3 days later, Zai Lei will be flying to Niger. There, someone will pick him up. To maximize his ability, he'll receive military training for half a year and learn more advanced computer knowledge. The source of the advanced computer knowledge naturally came from the digital library in the apocalypse. As to how advanced, around 10 years more advanced than the modern world. Although Jiang Chen was clueless, Yao Yao would organize the information for him. As to his sister Zai Lin, Jiang Chen will pay to send her to Frankfurt to receive the most advanced eye treatment. Speaking of this, I think you are quite similar to the typical protagonist in a novel. Jiang Chen glanced at Zai Lei in the mirror as he joked. "MHMM," Zai Lei looked confusedly at Jiang Chen. "Both parents are busy. You have a sister and an apartment." "Both of my parents are not busy. They passed away a long time ago. This joke is not funny." A gloom fell over the teen's face. Sorry, let's try another one. Let me think. King of Special Forces possess a unique ability, returned to city after 10 years. "I think you are more similar to a protagonist," Zai Lei abruptly interrupted Jiang Chen. "Do I?" Jiang Chen subconsciously asked rhetorically but was astonished. Pretty F-seeking similar." The target was not too far from the Minxing area. Another hour drive before the three arrived at their destination. The 6-story high apartments lined up in rows. The dull and unruly grass looked like it hasn't been taken care of for a long time. From any angle, the community was average. Because they went during work hours, there was not a lot of people in the community. Therefore, there was no one standing on the balcony looking curiously at the three people. However, they only knew Black Tiger's coordinates. They could not precisely locate his room. But Jiang Chen had other ways to determine the precise location. He stood under the apartment as he signaled Aisha, who already went upstairs, and called Black Tiger's number again. "Hello," a male voice yawning transmitted from the other side of the phone. Aisha held the signal jammer as she gradually moved up floor by floor. "Hello, do you make fake IDs? Can I get 10? Are you trustworthy?" Jiang Chen threw a bunch of questions in his face. "What?" Black Tiger was dumbfounded as he held the phone completely clueless. "I thought you made fake IDs. Your number is written on the wall, and that's why I called." Jiang Chen used a serious tone as he continued to make up elaborate lies. Zai Lei, standing beside him, raised his eyebrows as he could not bear to watch any more of this. "You are FC King Reddited." The voice ceased, though at the same time Aisha was holding the signal jammer, standing in front of Apt 402. Jiang Chen hung up the phone, waved at Zai Lei and went upstairs. "Go knock," Jiang Chen patted Zai Lei's shoulder. Zai Lei hesitated for a moment before walking up and knocking on the door. "Who is it?" Following the voice, footsteps could be heard gradually approaching. Then the door quickly popped open. A man in his 30s peeked his messy-haired head out. The unshaven face looked sloppy. The sleepy eyes indicated that he had yet to wake up, and his right hand was holding onto a phone. When he saw Zai Lei's face, his expression instantly changed. "Looks like it is him," Jiang Chen shrugged. He didn't expect someone with a pseudo-name as cool as Black Tiger to be someone this wretched. Black Tiger immediately tried to slam the door shut, but one of Zai Lei's foot was already wedged inside, and he simultaneously lifted his right hand to prevent the door from closing. His fist then forcefully smashed into Black Tiger's nose, making him fall backward with a bam as he hit the shoe rack. What are you doing? Wait, how did you find me here?" Black Tiger looked in horror at the enraged teen sitting on top of him. "FCKU." Blowing the anger off of his chest, Zai Lei threw another punch right at the disgusting face. Black Tiger desperately tried to fend him off, but Zai Lei already acquired the geographical advantage. His punches, from up to down, made it impossible for Black Tiger to fight back as his face had to take every single punch. Zai Lei breathed heavily as he gritted his teeth and raised his hand once again. But this time, Jiang Chen held on to it. "Enough, if you keep hitting him, he will die." Hearing that, Zai Lei stared at the faintly breathing Black Tiger as he finally stopped. Jiang Chen looked speechlessly at the bruised-up Black Tiger as he let out a troubled sigh. "Whatever, it's hard to interrogate you now in this condition. Just put on some medicine." Black Tiger didn't see Jiang Chen's face, which saved him a lot of trouble. Although truth-telling liquid would make him lose part of his memory, Jiang Chen didn't want to risk it. Yesha, who came in last, closed the door. She helped Jiang Chen drag Black Tiger into the living room, tied him to the chair, and took out the truth-telling liquid. In around a minute's time, the man in his 30s rolled his eyes and stared blankly at the wall in front of him. It looked like the drug was effective. Seeing the look on Black Tiger's face, Zai Lei gulped. He thought about how the drug was almost used on him as he felt a shivering chill down his spine. "Name?" "Zhang Hao," a zombie-like response. "Age?" 32. 32. "Who sent you the mission?" "I don't know. I registered on an intermediary website. After accepting the mission, the details were sent to my email." "What's your email and password?" Black Tiger, without resistance, recited out his email and password. Then Jiang Chen ignored Black Tiger as he turned to look at Zai Lei with a smile. "Your first mission is here. Now that you have the email and password, as well as the device that accepted the mission, I want you to find out who the client was." Zai Lei shook his head with a troubled smile. "That's impossible. Since contact with the client was made through the intermediary website, then the email must be sent on behalf of the website. Then you should hack into the server of the middleman, through the backend, and dig the client out." Zai Lei was shocked. Though looking at the stern expression on Jiang Chen's face, he took a deep breath. "This is crazy. Hacking into the server of the intermediary website for hackers. Let me try." "Be bold. There is someone here that's the scapegoat." Jiang Chen glanced at Black Tiger on the chair and laughed delightfully. When Zai Lei passed Black Tiger, he stopped and asked him, "Where is the evidence used to threaten Green Bird?" "On the computer, and on the USB drive that is on the second level of the bookshelf." When he got the answer he needed, Zai Lei walked quickly into Black Tiger's room and managed to find the USB. He slammed the USB on the ground and smashed the nightmare that had threatened him for so long into pieces. He then found Black Tiger's personal computer. Although the unfamiliar device did not feel smooth, it was not a big deal for a hacker his level. He opened the computer and began to furiously type on the keyboard. "You haven't played with me for so long. Are you just leaving me here?" Jiang Chen imagined her bitter expression and smiled as his fingers began to type on the screen. "Miss me?" Buzz, the response speed of this girl was still shocking. I have been busy. I made a trip overseas. Rub head busy. Do you need me to reward you? Seeing the cute emoji, the tip of Jiang Chen's mouth curved up. Adorable can warm the bed, understanding, knows her limits. Although not the best girl to marry, a perfect mistress nonetheless. After coming back from Wangai University, Jiang Chen paid for her breach of contract so she could gain her freedom and also become unemployed. Although he did become her sugar daddy, he still never delivered the movie promise. I'll be on a vacation at Panu Island soon. Do you want to come? I do. Jiang Chen felt exasperated, though just as he was about to reply, Zai Lei came out of the room. I found it. This is the phone number and email of the client based on all signs. The client is Lingyu Technology. Lingyu Technology. A sneer appeared on Jiang Chen's face. Excellent, time to take care of this problem. Chapter 168, The Malignant Event and Aftermath. October 16, 2015. It was not an ordinary day for Lingyu Technology. What is going on? Tell me what is going on. Ling Zhongshan clung on to Qian Haiming's collar as he roared out with bloodshot eyes. Qian Haiming's mouth twitched, but he couldn't say a word. Boss, please calm down. Our programmers are fixing the server. I have also called the police. The deputy assured me that he would quickly. Quickly, my SS. Ling Zhongshan pushed Qian Haiming away as he breathed heavily. He used one hand to hold onto the table, while the other trembling hand pulled out a drawer and he grabbed his cardiac medication. His shaking fingers took several tries before twisting open the cap. Finally pouring a few capsules into his hand, Ling Zhongshan stuffed the medication in his mouth and chugged down some water with it. He closed his eyes to regather his breath before finally opening them again. His emotions seemed to have calmed down. Seeing that the boss was no longer angry, Qian Haiming, who stood on the side afraid to talk, finally let out a breath of air. But when he raised his head, he was shocked to find that the respectable boss was no longer there. The person who replaced him was a pale-looking old man that lost his ability to speak. Morning. Players from IHaveAMansion Dota History logged onto the game as per their usual routine to finish their daily quest. But when they logged in, they were enraged to find out that their account returned to level 0, the diamond they obtained from gold, equipment, and real money. Were all FC King gone? There was only a brief explanation posted on the official site regarding this incident. Last night at around midnight, the server received a malicious attack from hackers. Programmers are currently working to restore lost user data and upgrading system security. For the inconvenience it may cause the users, Lingyu Technology expressed their deepest regret. Deep regret, my SS. The enraged players almost blew up Lingyu Technology's customer service. The customer service representative would receive another call immediately after hanging up. However, there was nothing they can do to resolve the complaints of the players since they were not responsible for the operation. They could only follow the procedure of explaining the current situation to the players and asking them to remain calm, as well as assure them that the programmers were currently working to resolve the problem and for them to please be patient. But it was futile. For the millions of angry players, the 100 customer service representative team was a drop of water in the vast ocean. When the angry players saw that the problem was not resolved and that the helpline was constantly busy, they directly dialed 315 to file a violation of rights against Lingyu Technology. They have purchased the diamonds, spent their time leveling up, and now it was all gone. However, these complaints were meaningless against Lingyu Technology as at the time of registration, there was a clause added at the bottom to offset such incidents. The final interpretation of this agreement was up to the discretion of the operator. Also, Han laws were ambiguous when it came to intellectual property protection. Rarely would there be a case where players have won a lawsuit against a game operator. But the negative reputation caused by the lost user data was hard to erase. Official forums had an influx of complaining players. The moderators had to increase the requirement for posting and began mooting and banning people. Not only did this not control the status quo, but the players without a place to express their rage also began to flood into other forums. Major BBS.1 forums were all pulled into the midst of this event, as the few justice-seeking posts were instantly upvoted to the top. Every post under the influence of the Internet army unified their statement, and in the name of holiness began a crusade on the evil operator. Protecting their rights, everyone selectively chose to forget that Lingyu technology was also a victim. The real person that made them suffer losses was the hacker that attacked the server. As to how it escalated to this point, the Internet army had their fair share of contribution. Once they swayed the opinion during the first outburst of anger, there was not much suspense in the remaining battle. Lingyu technology not only lost in skill, but also public opinion. The players part of the Internet crusade realized that the operator did not compensate for their loss. The promised 1,000 crystals for every player could not compensate the loss of the players that paid for 2,000. The project department's lack of action and the customer service's perfunctory were interpreted as arrogance. In the midst of disappointment and anger among the players, seeing that their votes by hands were useless, they began to vote with their feet. The crusade ended because they had already given up on the game. Instead, they chose a better mobile game. There were better games on the market. The only reason they stood their ground on an almost out-of-date game was because of the emotional attachment, as well as the time and money sunk into it. But emotional attachment was certainly a fragile thing, as the attitude and response of the operator indeed broke the heart of the players that stood their ground. Seeing the account that they spent countless hours on being erased was more painful than seeing the game being shut down completely. Based on market analysis, the server operated by Lingyu technology lost 89% of their users due to this data postage. While the servers operated by other companies did not receive a malicious attack, the after effect of the event resulted in a significant amount of users being lost. As if in one night, the Lingyu technology that forged miracles collapsed. At the same time, the new future technology was using its era-defining, new era to rise to dominance. The stars seemed to have aligned. New era was foretelling the end of the old era. There, within the international airport at Wangai City. Come back early. Yan Zioyan's eyes were brimming with tears. She gently bit her lip as she gazed into the teen's eyes. I will. Zilei felt his face burn from her stare. Zhang Kao hooked onto his neck with a smirk. Nice buddy. When did you get together with Zioyan? She is so violent. A deathly stare shot over as Jiang Kao backed away, causing a forced laugh. Sorry. Zilin frightenedly stood behind Zilei and held onto her brother's hand. It was her first time being on a plane, though she has also never seen plane before. Zilei seemed to have sensed his sister's anxiousness as he gently squeezed her hand. The pale face that lacked sunlight displayed an unfitting tenderness. With her head lowered and face blushing, Zilin had a lot of things to tell her brother, but she could only faintly squeeze out one word. MHMM. Zilei had a relieved smile as he rubbed his sister's head. He didn't know when Lu Dahu walked up to him, felt him pat his shoulder. Take care. MHMM. Zilei nodded firmly. Jiang Chen looked at the group of four from afar as he exclaimed arrogantly, acting on his seniority, "It's good to be young." Asha, who stood beside him, tilted her head. Her cold face displayed a confused expression. The goodbye was over. Zilei took his sister's hand, took a deep breath, and walked in Jiang Chen's direction. Ready? Jiang Chen smiled amiably. Although this teen did orchestrate a plan against him, surprisingly, he did not hold any grudges. Perhaps because he didn't suffer any material damage, or perhaps because he thought this person wasn't inherently bad. Regardless, the actual people that should be punished was already punished. MHMM. Zai nodded and then bowed while looking at him genuinely. "Thank you." "No problem. You can think of it as an exchange." Jiang Chen pointed at the electronic collar around his neck. Although it was an electronic collar, it was not thick. It was only a thin layer of silica gel, which didn't make it uncomfortable to wear. It would also easily pass through security screening, a convenient tool. Zai looked curiously in her brother's direction, and then in Jiang Chen's direction. Then, the adorable young face displayed a tender smile. She cutely bowed too as she said in a still childish voice, "Thank you." Jiang Chen noticed that the color of her pupils was faint, as if it was covered by a thick layer of film. Even though she couldn't see, she could blossom a smile this powerful. "No problem," Jiang Chen kneeled down and said with a smile. Jiang Chen noticed Zai staring right at him. He paused for a second before he began to laugh. "Are you really a Mako, Japanese culture, someone who likes their own sister?" He stood up, patted the slim shoulder of the teen and said with a smirk. The teen didn't answer, but rather looked away with a flushed face. Zai tilted her head as she confusedly pulled on Zai's hand. She was still not at the age where she understood the meaning of Mako. "Haha, be assured, train while you are there, get more tanned and you will look more lively." Jiang Chen used force when he patted the teen's back. "When you get to Niger, there will be someone waiting for you at the airport. You can call him Uncle Ivan, he'll be responsible for training you like a man." "What do you mean like?" Jiang Chen ignored Zai's protest as he interrupted him. "You and your sister will stay for a day in Niger. Then your sister will head to Charlotte Hospital in Frankfurt under the supervision of advanced caregivers. That's enough. Stop standing around and go now." "Thank you." "Don't waste time, go board now." Seeing the departing silhouette of the brother and sister, Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed, and the corner of his mouth curled up. "What, Aisha, do you have any questions?" Jiang Chen noticed her rubbing her hair and the confusion in her eyes. Face slightly red, Aisha asked hesitantly, "They are your enemy. Why did you let them go and on top of that help them?" "Not every enemy is a real enemy." Eyes narrowed, Jiang Chen watched the brother and sister board and left Aisha a confusing answer. Aisha tilted her head. She didn't quite understand the meaning behind it. Jiang Chen took out his phone and called Zia Shiyu. "Get the legal documents prepared. We are going to change our headquarters." When he said that, a bright smile appeared on his face. For the real enemy, he will show no mercy. 1. Bulletin board system, similar to a forum. 2. Vote with their feet if they can't bring change. They can choose to leave. Chapter 169, You Should Thank Me. The earthquake has yet to settle 15 days after the Lingyu technology data hostage incident that shocked the country's mobile game industry. The perpetrator's intention was extreme malicious and didn't leave any ground for recovery. Despite how hard the Lingyu technology programmer tried, he couldn't manage to recover the lost user information. Based on industry experts' estimations, Lingyu Technology's direct loss was as high as 1.4 billion RMB. The magnitude of the indirect damage was even harder to quantify given the scale. Regardless, the well-praised brand built through time has been tarnished. Even if Lingyu Technology tried to separate gamer operation from its business focus and shift to primarily game development, it would still be futile. No matter how good the game was, players refused to buy into it for no reasons other than the fact that the game came from Lingyu Technology. Without players, no operator would dare to carry the game. The game data was lost out of nowhere. Even if Lingyu Technology was a victim, why were their servers the only ones down while the others were fine? Couldn't they spend more money increasing the security of the servers? All in all, once the reputation had spread out, it was impossible to erase. Even the long-term partner of Lingyu Technology, 361 Corporation, maintained a cautious attitude with the newly developed game. This malicious internet crime not only shook the industry, the ripple even spread to other aspects. The angry players clearly escalated the incident. Once the industry news became a society topic, bureaus had to respond to the situation. Internet security was once again put on the table. Renren News published a headline that condemned the usage of criminal attack using hacking technology. It also indicated that the bureaus are currently in discussion for improving the law. At the same time, the investigation is currently ongoing. A team of Internet security experts was quickly formed. The attacker's IP was quickly locked. Even after layers of masking, it still didn't escape the tracking of experts. Regardless of how skillful the hackers are, as long as they are here, they must leave some sort of clue. Jiang Hao, the Black Tiger, was quickly arrested. Although he cluelessly indicated that he was not involved, he still couldn't prove his innocence. The computer conducting the crime was found in his room. The frightened Jiang Hao frantically confessed the deal with Ling Zhongshan and Zai Lei. He insisted that he was framed and that it must have been Zai Lei. He was the third-ranked green bird on the Hacker Alliance. Only he had the ability to hack into Lingyu Technologies servers. But it was useless, he couldn't provide evidence. When he found out that the USB on his shelf disappeared, and the evidence stored in his computer vanished, Zhang Kao was completely dumbfounded. Because Zai Lei already left the country with the reason of taking his sister to Germany for medical treatments, there was not enough evidence to prove his intent despite the suspicious source of funding. Zai Lei's personal account did not change. Only a securitized foreign account paid for the plane tickets and the medical expense. Although the action was mysterious in nature, mysteriousness could not be used as evidence. After spending a long time gathering evidence, the investigating team couldn't find any connection between the event and Zai Lei. However, they did find something interesting. A few days ago, there was an illegal deal between Jiang Hao and Ling Zhongshan, a deal to attack future technology servers. However, the mission was cancelled from Jiang Hao's side, the reason being the commission was too low. Of course, he had no recollection of this. The explanation behind this is simple because Zai Lei used his computer, logged on his account and cancelled the quest. The case was closed. The perpetrator, Jiang Hao, terminated the contract because of the commission conflict with Lingyu Technologies president, Ling Zhongshan. Therefore, he infiltrated Lingyu Technologies server and permanently deleted the user data, which caused an insurmountable amount of economic loss to Lingyu Technology. Based on the extreme negative influence caused by society and the high value associated with the case, the Supreme Court's verdict was a life sentence. Jiang Hao appealed, but the Supreme Court directly rejected the plea for appeal and maintained the verdict. As for Ling Zhongshan, although he conducted illegal activity, it was merely an unsuccessful attempt, and thus it was hard to define the nature of the crime. He was not sentenced under the law for this reason. But it was yet to be over. Ling Zhongshan's hearing of a hacker to attack future technology was quickly exposed online by conscientious people, and Ling Zhongshan's identity instantly changed from the victim to the villain. Those who previously felt sympathy for him immediately turned against him and joined the new round of internet crusade against Lingyu Technology. Of course, a small amount of voices suggested that it could be the conspiracy of future technology. After all, the collapse of the long-time industry leader Lingyu Technology would benefit them the most. Of course, those voices were quickly labeled as conspirators, and they vanished in the waves of public debate. With future technology's ability, why would they need to have a conspiracy against the competition? Lingyu Technology's shitty games are comparable to New Era. The quite interesting thing was that the people defending future technology were the hardcore fans of Dota history and IHaveAMansion. Because they cared so much, they hated it even more. When they were so disappointed at Lingyu Technology and decided to give future technology's New Era, out of boredom, they instantly realized that the game they defended for was a pile of SHT. Therefore, future technology easily took the influx of Lingyu Technology players, and the number of registration broke through 50 million, with an estimated revenue breaking through 400 million RMB, shattering 2 records in the mobile game industry consecutively. Its dominance could not be challenged. The victory was already decided on the main battlefield, but the crossfire had yet to cease. Following the series of negative press and the direct result of downward pressure on revenue, Lingyu Technology's stock price triggered 10 consecutive circuit breaks and led the index in stock depreciation as the poorest performance company after the June stock market collapse. The total market cap was slashed off by 70% and broke through $1.5 billion. To avoid triggering loan clauses, Lingyu Technology had to increase collateral assets and pledge the about-to-be-completed Lingyu building at the value of $530 million to the bank before it finally stopped the plunge. Deep in red and excessive loan, Lingyu Technology was pushed into the corner without any solution. But at the time, Future Technology began making its moves. First, Future Technology published a statement on its official site to directly respond to the public opinion and condemn the majority shareholders Ling Jiangshen's illegal action against Future Technology, and officially sent the lawyer letter to Ling Jiangshen. Was Future Technology prepared to sue Lingyu Technology? Regardless of the result of the lawsuit, investors were hopeless with Lingyu Technology's future. The next day, Lingyu Technology once again triggered the circuit breaker. 4 days later, Lingyu Technology ended the week with $980 million market cap. Within 4 short days, Lingyu Technology lost the value of a building. To avoid triggering the clause, Ling Jiangshen had to increase the pledged asset. This time it was 33% of his share. The about-to-be-completed Lingyu building costed $870 million, and it was built with debt. The new game development and promotion had eaten away most of the profit. From the current status quo, the investments were unrecoverable. The lawyer letter was like declaring war. It only ignited the prelude to the battle. When Lingyu Technology broke the record for the highest monthly decrease, Future Technology's president began to increase Lingyu Technology's share on the secondary market and became the biggest shareholder at 37%. Because it was not disclosed, Jiang Chen was fined $600,000 by the Security Commission for an illegal transaction. But comparable to the profit he gained by shorting Lingyu Technology, the punishment was pocket change to Jiang Chen. Lingyu Technology ultimately changed hand. The Lingyu Technology building had yet to finish the renovation, but under the demand of the new president, they organized a conference room with a row of table and chairs. Also based on the demand of the new president, a special shareholder meeting was announced. As to the identity of the new president, it was obviously Jiang Chen. Every shareholder's face was gloom. No, to be more precise, other than the people sitting at the end of the table, everyone's face was gloom. Jiang Chen leaned against the chair as he scanned all the shareholders present. Other than the Ling Jiangshen with white hair, he was surprised to find someone he knew. Sensing Jiang Chen's sight, Zhang Jianfeng smiled friendly at him. Why is he here? Jiang Chen still had some impression with Zhang Jianfeng. He represented 361 Corporation before during the negotiation with Future Technology. Although nothing came to fruition in the end, Jiang Chen had high praises regarding this talent. 361 Corporation want to be involved in this. Jiang Chen muttered in his mind, but his expression didn't change in the slightest. He still maintained the bright smile and started speaking. Everyone, I think you should all thank me. Thank your mom. All the shareholders cursed in their mind, but no one dared to speak out loud. As to why? If it wasn't for me to increase the holding of your company's share, which halted the plunge of Lingyu Technology's share price, the share in your hands would be scrap paper. Jiang Chen shrugged. Ling Jiangshen slowly looked over. The aged face no longer resembled this once proud prodigy. He once made his goal to become the Steve Jobs of mobile games, but in those blurred eyes, there was only a deep weariness left. To be the meat on someone's chopping board is to be at someone's mercy. The cracked lips opened and squeezed a sentence full of hatred. If you knew today would happen, why did you do it? Jiang Chen directly responded. Ling Jiangshen was out of words and didn't say anything else. He just stared at the document on the table and blanked out. Lingyu Technology Asset Restructure Proposal. Based on the current performance of the company, as the president, I think I should do something. He paused. Jiang Chen looked at the crowd holding their breath. A faint smile flashed across his face. But then the following sentence he said made every shareholder's mood plunge into the abyss. That's right, we are planning to initiate asset restructure. So first, I plan to sell the building. Who to sell it to? Is that even a question? Left hand to right hand, future technology needed a headquarter fitting for its name. Chapter 170, Split the Market. This is impossible, you can't do this. Mr. Jiang Chen, please don't bring your personal grudges into the shareholder meeting. I understand differences exist between you and ex-president Ling Zhongshan. This is called asset restructuring. This is robbery. Your motion will not be passed. Even if you are the biggest shareholder, Lingyu Technology will not permit you to do whatever you wish. Jiang Chen sipped from his tea on the table. Then, he sank into the chair relaxingly with his eyes narrowed, looking at the outraged shareholders. His gaze stopped on Ling Zhongshan for a brief moment, but the old man didn't look at him. He was still gravely staring at the documents on the table. He had already lost hope. Jiang Chen shook his head as he looked at the only person calmly sitting there, Zhang Jianfeng. 361 Corporation held 5% of Lingyu Technology. Although the ownership percentage was not high, it must have been purchased at a premium. This time, Lingyu Technology's share plummet definite had an impact on 361 Corporation. On the other hand, as the third-party platform, 361 Corporation operated the servers for Dota under the consent of Lingyu Technology. Although 361 Corporation's server didn't suffer the same fate as the permanent loss of Lingyu Technology's user data, it certainly was negatively affected. As the representative sent by 361 Corporation, Jiang Chen didn't quite understand the motive behind Zhang Jianfeng's smiling face. What is 361 Corporation thinking? But regardless of what they had in mind, Jiang Chen was going to put the final nail in the coffin for Lingyu Technology. Before the vote, I want everyone to consider this. Lingyu Technology has fallen from Cloud 9 and has become an unprofitable corporation. Without exaggeration, it is facing the risk of being delisted. However, I am still here. If I leave, do you know what that means? After the shareholders' meeting, the stock will resume trading this afternoon. Whether it is going up or going down would be based on the decision of everyone here. Jiang Chen's words turned everyone, but Zhang Jianfeng pale. Because of the shareholders' meeting, the temporary suspension of the stock garnered a chance for Lingyu Technology to breathe. Furthermore, Jiang Chen's recent increase in his holdings definitely added a shot of adrenaline to the investors. If it became a signal for using Lingyu Technology as a shell company to list, after Lingyu Technology consecutive circuit breaks, it would be unrealistic for the stock to skyrocket. But if the restructuring plan failed, and Jiang Chen decreases his holding of Lingyu Technology, then it would be adding salt to Lingyu Technology's already massive wound. Once the stock resumed trading this afternoon, Lingyu Technology would not be able to escape the fate of its continuous freefall. Therefore, whether or not the stock in all the shareholders' hands become a piece of scrap paper would be at the discretion of Jiang Chen. At this time, someone stood up and threatened, 361 Corporation is also one of the shareholders. Even if you forfeit your shares, they will start. 361 Corporation maintains the same stance as the new president. If President Jiang chooses to decrease his holding, for 361 Corporation, your company will lose its investment value. Zhang Jianfeng shattered that person's fantasy. Seeing the person sit down at a complete loss, Jiang Chen looked at Zhang Jianfeng in surprise, but he didn't say anything. If there are no other opinions, let's start the voting process, Jiang Chen announced as he scanned everyone in the room. After the death-like announcement, all the shareholders cast their dispirited vote. The proposal passed without a doubt. Only Ling Zhongshan voted against it. The restructuring plan was as follows. First, Lingyu Technology is renamed Chenfeng Entertainment. Lingyu Technology will sell the about-to-be-completed Lingyu Technology building at a price of 600 million and also bear the obligation for debt repayment. Because of a major error caused by his decision, ex-President Jiang Chen will be removed as a shareholder following company protocol, a vote where greater than 2/3 of shareholders agree, and his held shares will be forcefully transferred to other shareholders at market price. Based on the distribution plan negotiated, Jiang Chen's shares will increase to 40%, 361 corporations holding changes to 21%, becoming the second largest shareholder. Everyone knew Jiang Chen would lose a lot once the restructuring is complete. It would not be impossible to recover the market cap, but no one wanted to speak to him. Jiang Chen accepted the result in silence. He shakenly stood up from his spot and left the office. Everything here had nothing to do with him anymore. He started to feel regret, but what could regret do now? Business is like a battlefield. Any mercy could be fatal. After the partnership with Future Technology and 361 Corporation, Lingyu Corporation's future would be bright. But why would that matter? It had nothing to do with him anymore. He received the same fate as the Steve Jobs he idolizes, leaving the company he started. The only difference was he could never come back. Seeing the trembling figure leave, Jiang Chen fell deep in thought. When the meeting ended, the shareholders began to leave, but Jiang Jianfeng stayed behind. As if Jiang Chen expected him to stay, he also remained seated and looked at him with a smile. "We meet again, President Jiang." Jiang Jianfeng walked toward Jiang Chen and extended his right hand. In less than 2 months' time, Future Technology has already developed to the point where they could sit equally on the same table. "That's right. What do you think of the hand I had just played?" Jiang Chen shook Jiang Jianfeng's hand as he smiled mischievously. Ruthless, Jiang Jianfeng only gave a one-word response. Jiang Chen laughed as he leaned on the chair, not responding. If Jiang Chen successfully destroyed Future Technology's server data, he would definitely do the same thing. But unfortunately, that was the reality of things. With a thunderous stance, a critical hit was given to his opponent, worthy of the name Dictator, was the headline of BBC. "Mr. Jiang is overrating me." The odd time Jiang Chen was humble. But President Jiang doesn't think this decision lacked consideration. Jiang Jianfeng pulled up a chair and sat beside Jiang Chen as he began to talk in a casual tone. "Oh," Jiang Chen responded in a disagreeing tone. "Are you involved with Lingyu Technology's server?" "No," Jiang Chen smiled. "The security system was customized by 361 Corporation." "That's unfortunate. Jiang Chen only bought insurance for the server but didn't buy it for the game's data. Would you pay the penalty for this?" "For the loss of data, our programmers have already provided support to the police," Jiang Jianfeng casually said. "Isn't the hacker already caught?" Jiang Chen also responded in a nonchalant tone. "There is a hacker called Zai Lei. He has been in contact with Black Tiger before." Jiang Jianfeng locked his eyes onto Jiang Chen's. "You are still bloating like usual, but you know it is useless on me." Jiang Chen picked up the teacup on the table as he smiled at him. "Funny, would the contact person be enough to confirm a crime? If so, it would be a pity for those people." Without evidence, everything was bullshit. The silence ensued for half a minute. President Jiang doesn't seem to care about the interest of Lingyu Technology. Jiang Jianfeng's topic suddenly changed as he looked in the direction of the door. "Do you think New Era needs the resources of Lingyu Technology? We already controlled the high grounds of the market," Jiang Chen said nonchalantly as he put down the cup in his hand. "The best part is about to come. Would you not consider a partnership? If it utilized 361 Phone Helper's platform, New Era's user base would climb to new heights." "New Era currently will not consider opening third-party servers," Jiang Chen rejected expressionlessly. "Funny, not only would it involve cloud computing, but even if I gave the game to you, without the modified server, maintenance cost alone would make you go deep into the red." Since President Jiang is confident that you can control the premium game market, what's your opinion on casual games? Even with the existing high-quality premium games, casual games have not lost their market. Jiang Chen obviously considered pushing out a few casual games like Angry Birds and Temple Run, but the plan was never fulfilled. The reason was simply that those games depended on creativity, not software. Although the Apocalypse's technology was impeccable, it was pointless for casual games. Future technology didn't possess any talents in game development. Therefore, the plan had to be rejected. But Zhang Jianfeng brought it up again. You mean, Jiang Chen was quite interested. We can work together. Zhang Jianfeng crossed his finger and genuinely looked at Jiang Chen. Lingyu Technology, no, Chenfeng Entertainment. Right now, it is a company we control together, right? We can definitely collaborate together with our talent base and start a new project with the main focus being on the downstream market. Using 361 Phone Helper and Future One, we could use both channels to promote it. With the power of the two companies, we can easily split the entire mobile game market. In the end, Zhang Jianfeng was almost enunciating word by word. Jiang Chen paused for a second before he started laughing. Did you selectively choose to ignore Baidu and Tencent? On the mobile platform, our ability is no less than any of them. Maybe President Jiang should be more confident with our alliance. Zhang Jianfeng smiled. I don't plan on giving this building up. Jiang Chen stared at the ceiling. Of course, as a trophy, the fact that it belongs to you now won't change. The building with a cost of 870 million was sold at a discount of 600 million. They were at least the second biggest shareholder of Chenfeng Entertainment. 361 Corporation was certainly willing to cut the loss. What about the previous Chenfeng employees? Jiang Chen asked softly. He originally planned to cut them completely, but now it seemed like it would be a waste to not use them. Work at the previous location, or lease a floor in this building. It would be your decision. Zhang Jianfeng had a bright smile on because he knew Jiang Chen was tempted. No one would reject a cake that was put right in front of their mouth. If you brought up the partnership in the beginning, we could have worked together a long time ago. Jiang Chen suddenly laughed. But it is still not too late, right? Zhang Jianfeng got up, extending his right hand once again. That's right, because I think we should split this market. Also standing up, Jiang Chen held onto the extended hand with a triumphant smile on his face. Chapter 171. The Preparation Before Returning to the Apocalypse. The same afternoon, Lingyu Technology announced a statement. The shareholders passed the restructuring proposal. Ling Zhongshan was removed from the board. The company was officially renamed Chenfeng Entertainment, and the company's stock would remain suspended until the completion of its asset restructuring. The news spread to all the shareholders like a long-due storm, finally passing a draft-dried land, and they began cheering. The people that cut their loss were depressed by their decision of not having confidence in the company. All in all, these people thought of Jiang Chen as Jesus Christ. Future Technology and 361 Corporation both possessed shares. One has been valued at over $1 billion by Wall Street analysts at its inception, while one was already listed on Nasdaq with a market cap of over $10 billion. It left too many people, too much room for the imagination. Graciously, Jiang Chen made headline again. The young billionaire once again enters people's vision. The charming smile, the calm attitude, attracting the heart of countless girls. Okay, they really don't care about Jiang Chen's looks. Being famous didn't seem to create too much of a hassle in his life. Different from celebrities in the entertainment industry, most of his fans were very rational. The people that want to marry into wealthy would not flap towards him like bees. It would be too unclassy. They would often pretend to be a frail and innocent girl, encountering him under his building, and accidentally starting a rich CEO fell in love with me drama. But unfortunately, Jiang Chen was known to not go to work, and the community he lived in was also somewhere random people could not enter. Their plan ultimately would fail. The irrational fans used the security team in the community to send him love letters and attached a duck-face selfie inside. Jiang Chen at first was looking forward to reading the letters to see how the beauties have been conquered by his charm and how they had fallen for him. Don't question, Jiang Chen never said he didn't like to hear flattering words. But he was quickly bored. All the love letters had the same content, revolving around bold propositions. The directness even made Jiang Chen, who was proud of his lack of boundaries, shy. He gave the rest of letters to Aisha and told the security to throw all letters of this kind into the garbage. After telling them not to bother him with it, he left this in the back of his mind. Han was indeed a deep and profound language. What Jiang Chen meant by taking care of them was to throw them out, but Aisha interpreted as examination. Obviously misunderstanding Jiang Chen's intention, she had the thought of picking another wife for her husband as she patiently read through a few love letters. As a qualified wife, she will not be jealous towards husband's other partners. She will obediently share with her and take care of him. Take back what she said, she also gave up. As a qualified wife, instincts told her that these women have impure motives. These love letters finally didn't escape the fate of the paper shredder. It was already November, and based on Miss Sun Jiao's description, the apocalypse must be covered in thick snow. But Wangai City was still sunny and mild. Even deep into the fall, it still didn't feel cold at all. To be honest, Jiang Chen not only once had the thought of not going back to the other side, since he already was a winner in his life here. Luxurious mansion, top-end car and beautiful girls, everything he ever dreamt of was achieved. But on the other side, there was only danger. At this moment, he relaxingly lied beside his private pool on top of Aisha's legs and was getting his ears cleaned out for him. The side of his face felt the softness of her legs. Her fragrance lingered around his nose. The tip of her hair occasionally brushed across his face and tingled with his heart, the soft and gentle breathing beside his ear. IHaveAMansion, it's done now. A delighted smile appeared on Aisha's face as she gently blew on Jiang Chen's ear and put away the ear pick. Done already, a bit more. Because it was so comfortable, it was the odd time Jiang Chen was demanding. But it's already clean. It would hurt you if I do more, Aisha said faintly with a blushed face. No problem, please continue. Facing her husband's unreasonable demand, Aisha's face burned as she began debating. Although it was the duty of a qualified wife to satisfy the husband's demand, if she continued, it would damage her husband's ear. In this case, she must think of a compromising plan. A playful, warm sensation suddenly tickled Jiang Chen's ear, sending a shiver down his spine. He gasped softly, the unexpected intimacy catching him off guard. But an untimely phone call interrupted this intimate atmosphere. Aisha looked away with a blushed face. Such closeness was still embarrassing for her. Jiang Chen couldn't pretend to be lazy anymore as he got up to pick up the phone. Hello, Jiang Chen picked up with an unpleased tone. Voice sounds angry, did I annoy you? Liu Yao said coyly. You ruined my good time, Jiang Chen said fiercely. Aisha, standing on the side, heard it as her red face turned brighter. She lowered her head as her mind went elsewhere. Do you need me to compensate you? Liu Yao said energetically. What do you mean? Jiang Chen turned, so his back was facing Aisha. But what he didn't expect was that the blushed Aisha moved closer, her eyes full of a shy tenderness. She knelt gracefully, her touch gentle as her hands found his. Jiang Chen caught his breath, a wave of heat washing over him. Why are you making a weird sound? Liu Yao asked curiously. Nothing. If you have something to tell me, be quick. Jiang Chen cleared his throat, his voice slightly strained. Jiang Chen was not in the most ideal state. It's nothing special. A lot of entertainment companies have sent me invitations to star in movies. Since Jiang Chen accepted Liu Yao as his mistress, Jiang Chen paid the penalty of 1 million for breach of contract. After that, Liu Yao had been staying at home with nothing to do. Why did you suddenly got famous? Because of you, Liu Yao said in a sweet voice. Me? He looked down, meeting Aisha's devoted gaze, and a powerful mix of emotions and sensations made it nearly impossible to concentrate. Jiang Chen took a deep breath as he struggled to hold on. Yes, yes, you have a Weibo account, right? Other than the default followers, you only followed me, therefore. Liu Yao's voice sounded frail, as if she was afraid Jiang Chen would get angry. So, she carefully said, therefore people thought there was something between us, therefore. No, that's fine, I don't care about this news. Jiang Chen squeezed out a few words between his teeth, his hand gently rubbing Aisha's luscious hair. She felt the gentleness on her hair as her blue eyes narrowed happily. But then, it was even harder for Jiang Chen to resist. That's great. I was worried that you would not like me doing that anymore because of this. Liu Yao was delighted. Nope. Can I go act in a film then? No problem. No kissing scene, since she was now his mistress. Liu Yao was afraid Jiang Chen would be jealous. Okay. And also, the film producer wants to acquire your investment, Liu Yao carefully asked. Granted. Love you lots, Mua. When are we going to Panu Island for vacation? I heard it's summer there all year round. Are you listening? Yes. No, Jiang Chen couldn't hold on any longer, his focus entirely elsewhere. Wait, Liu Yao held the phone as her eyes turned suspicious. She suddenly covered her mouth, realizing something. You must be doing something naughty. No. Wait, no, this sound would not be wrong. You must, she sensed his voice was off. Jiang Chen let out a soft sound of assent. Fine. Seeing the gentleness in her eyes, Jiang Chen found he couldn't deny the overwhelming feeling any longer, surrendering to the moment. Well, if it were not for the people that he couldn't let go of, he probably wouldn't go back. The next morning, Jiang Chen made a trip to Xinlong food processing plant. Following his instructions, Zheng Hongji cleaned out a new warehouse to store the surplus goods. The goods inside would also not be registered on anything. Although he didn't know the boss' intention, he didn't ask. But he was not here to acquire food. He already prepared enough food to pass through the winter. He directly found Zheng Hongji and ordered him to arrange the export, and then increase production as soon as possible. The deepwater port at Panu Islands had already been completed. The next step of island conquering mission could begin. After taking care of the miscellaneous tasks, Jiang Chen headed back to the mansion and started to time travel. Chapter 172, Winter is Coming. Rather than saying winter was coming, it was more fitting to say winter was here. His vision was covered by the monochrome silver as the entire pool was filled with snow. A thick layer of snow covered the mansion, and the edges of the roof were decorated with daunting icicles, like a castle standing in the northern kingdom, solemn, proud. But Jiang Chen was not in the mood to enjoy the atmosphere of his mansion. He only wore a thin t-shirt. The second he stepped into the apocalypse, he began to shiver uncontrollably. This weather is too f***ing cold. Even with his body condition strengthened by the genetic vaccine, he couldn't withstand it anymore. Jiang Chen covered his arms with his hand as he dashed into the mansion from the backyard. The last time he was here, he started his time travel beside the pool because he was lazy, but he sure suffered on his way back. Different from the extreme conditions outside, the mansion was as warm as spring. The broken wall and window had been long repaired by Sun Jiao, and after a series of modifications and improvements, as long as the window was closed, the mansion would not be bothered by the severe wind chills outside. But before he even gained his footing in the mansion, Sun Jiao, who also ran toward him, pushed him onto the sofa. You are finally back. This girl's voice certainly had a hidden bitterness to it. A lot happened over there, Jiang Chen said apologetically. Although it was not entirely accurate, he did become lazy after having too much fun. Jiang Chen seemed to have sensed something, but she didn't point it out. Her beautiful eyes dreamily gazed into his. Jiang Chen looked away as he was shy from the passionate gaze, but he discovered Sun Jiao was holding something in her hand. What is this? This is. Out of nowhere, Sun Jiao's face immediately turned red as there was a sense of panic to her voice. "Towel?" Jiang Chen asked with uncertainty. "It's a scarf, fool." After seeing her proud work being slandered as a towel, Miss Sun Jiao was immediately enraged. The furious Sun Jiao gave a solid punch in Jiang Chen's chest, and then she pulled out the scarf, forcefully putting it around his neck out of shame. "Cough, cough, are you trying to strangle me?" Although the softness was continually squeezing onto him because of the violent action, the suffocating feeling around his neck canceled the sensation. Stop moving, just resist a bit longer," Sun Jiao with a blushed face said fiercely. "Wait, why do I have to resist against wearing a scarf? You are so talkative." After a while, the scarf was finally put around Jiang Chen's neck. Sun Jiao got up from Jiang Chen's body with a blushed face as she looked away. "Looks pretty good. It would be even better if you give it to me normally, especially because this is not how you wear a scarf." Sun Jiao, with a troubled smile, pulled the scarf around his neck. This girl was clearly confused about the difference between a rope and scarf. The pure black scarf was without any pattern. With a beginner's skill, it would be too difficult to put any patterns on it, but being able to knit the scarf was an accomplishment nonetheless. Hearing Jiang Chen's praise, Sun Jiao's eyes immediately lit up. As to the ridicule of method of tying the scarf, she selectively ignored the sentence. "Really? Haha, this is what I am saying. How could I mess up on a scarf?" With a red face and scratching the back of her head, CC kindness was written all over her face. "So why did you think about knitting a scarf?" After putting on the scarf properly, Jiang Chen asked nonchalantly. "Because," Sun Jiao's mind drifted again. Her face changed to a bright red hue. In the magazines before the war it said, girlfriends should knit scarves for their boyfriend. Therefore, it is not a requirement, or the better way to put it, the girl that is willing to knit a scarf for her boyfriend would be a rare species. Jiang Chen let out a sigh as she smiled. Jiang Chen was quite touched by her. "What do you mean a rare species?" Sun Jiao gave Jiang Chen a dirty look. "It means adorable," Jiang Chen rushed to explain. "Adorable." Her expression suddenly softened, and her bright eyes looked around shyly. At this time, Jiang Chen suddenly noticed Yao Yao standing on top of the stairs. This small lowly pouted her lips as the cute eyes stared straight at the scarf around his neck. "Oh, too devious." As if she heard the noise in the living room, Lin Lin walked in from the side door with her pure white hair. Still not hesitant to bad-mouth people. "PSH, it's only a dumb devil couple. Why would you guys display affection in the living room? Go close the door and do what you did." But before she finished, the words were stuck in her throat. A grim sight instantly locked onto her vision as she was forced to swallow her unfinished sentence. "Ahem, I think as the owner of the mansion, I need to do something now," Jiang Chen mustered to himself. "That's right. For example, building a wooden shack outside for her." A devil-like smile spread on Sun Jiao's face as she also enjoyed the feeling of bullying Lin Lin. In the end, she still could not be defiant. "You are all bullying me." With tears, Lin Lin escaped back to her room lab with a sad expression. This narcissistic and bad-tempered girl always instantly forgets to stand her ground. Seeing Lin Lin's fleeting figure, a smile appeared on Jiang Chen's face. "I wonder if she finished her task yet. I'll pick a time to take a look." There was no fireplace in the future. Except for the poorest survivors, no one would use fire to generate heat. Jiang Chen's mansion obviously didn't have that either. The reason the place was so warm was due to the heating grids placed within the wall. This device was extremely convenient, and it would provide heat as long as it was connected to electricity. The heat-resistant electric wire would not be burned by imps. Therefore, the heating grid became one of the few electronic devices that was not destroyed by the nuclear blast. In the top-floor office, Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao stood together and gazed into the distance. The thick snowflakes twirled in the north wind as they raided through every corner of the world. The ice shards that occasionally smashed on the window played a whimpering noise as it crashed into the frozen window. Even if he was just looking, he could still feel the coldness that could freeze one's soul. Such heavy snowfall. After a while, Jiang Chen could only produce 4 words while looking outside. This is not too bad. Usually, it would start snowing in October. In regards to the snow, Sun Jiao's expression was rather calm. It was rumored that when the war just ended, the entire world was covered by nuclear winter. It was the same cruel scene every day. I wonder how did the people outside of the survival shelters survive? Outside of their walls, apartments built with concrete were built for residents of Fishbone Base. The Fishbone Base that didn't lack money would obviously not mistreat its people. Every family was connected with heat and electricity. The life here was so much better than in the ghetto. On the empty streets, a pickup truck, modified to be a snow-shoveling vehicle, was working hard to push the snow out of the base. The patrol on the wall regularly walked around to watch for any incoming danger. The white winter suit made him look like a snowman carrying a rifle. With a snowstorm this big, the mutated humans shouldn't be able to invade us. Although it certainly was inconvenient to the construction of the base, the thick snowfall gave a hint of tranquility. Speaking of mutated humans, Zhao Gang, who you sent out scouting, brought back some interesting information. Oh, Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. There are at least 3,000 mutated humans in the 7th area. A lot of signs indicate that they are preparing war supplies. Every mutated human was a natural warrior. If there were actually 3,000 of them, even if they sent 1,000 people, it would be an unstoppable force that the Fishbone Base could not resist with only a population of 200. No, it would be difficult even for the 6th Street. Hopefully this snow will bring them some trouble. Jiang Chen watched the flying snowflakes as a worried expression flashed on his face. Mutated humans are known for their cold resistance. This amount of snow will do nothing to them. We can only pray that this storm will kill more of their slaves. That is the only way that would make things difficult for them. Sun Jian's voice was stern. Slaves? Speaking of this, how did the dancers in Jia City survive under the violent force of the mutated human? Jiang Chen shook his head as he put his thoughts away. Then he asked, "Is that all?" Also, based on Zhao Gang, when he returned from the 7th area, he encountered a group of survivors fleeing from Shengxiang town. Survivors fleeing, Jiang Chen touched his chin in thought. IHaveAMansion. They originally belonged to the survivor groups in Shengxiang town, but the survivor group was wiped already. Zhao Gang brought them back. I ordered people to keep them outside of the base for now. Sun Jiao nodded before she took out a tablet to show a map to Jiang Chen. Shengxiang town is between Qingpu and 7th area. It is on the Taifu River, a way for the mutated humans to enter Wangai City. There were around 700 survivors there, and because of the lack of mutant activity around the area as well as the lack of external threat, they lacked an organized system. They only established a simple defense outside of the town with a civilian force of 21 people. Therefore, they were enslaved by the mutated humans. Hearing this, Jiang Chen guessed the outcome. That's right, Sun Jiao nodded. A force of 40 mutated humans were stationed in Shengxiang town as they established an outpost there. Based on this, they are indeed going to take the route through Shengxiang town to Wangai City. That meant that they would go through Qingpu, not Songjiang. It was the worst outcome. Deep in Jiang Chen's heart, he hoped to avoid direct conflict with mutated humans. Even if they really arrived in Carmen Pharmaceutical and obtained the improved FEV virus, they would only torment Jia City. Jiang Chen took a deep breath as he asked in a serious tone, "What about the 700 survivors?" Based on the survivors who are there because of the snow blocking the roads, they are temporarily imprisoned in Shengxiang town and have not moved yet. Hearing this, Sun Jiao looked at Jiang Chen. Snow blocking the road, a singled-out mutated human outpost. Watching the snow on the window, a smile suddenly surfaced on Jiang Chen's face. This is an opportunity. You mean? Take them out, reinforce Shengxiang town's defense, and intercept the mutated human force there, blocking them out of Qingpu. Chapter 173, Kinetic Skeleton. Comparing direct firepower. A soldier wearing a T3 power armor had no inherent difference to a mutated human, with a steel plate covering the front of its body. In a one-on-one scenario, power armor, with its high mobility and adaptability, would quickly take down the almost defenseless back of the mutated human. But if it escalated to a full-scale battle, the power armor's advantage would be mitigated, as the battle would usually turn into cover fire. During the last crossfire with the mutated human, Jiang Chen already learned his lesson. The 10T3 power armors had no advantage in firepower against the 30-something mutated human. It was even fair to say that they were at a disadvantage the entire time. In the end, they barely won with the advantageous positioning they had, but they lost with the cost of one power armor and multiple backup fuel rods. If Jiang Chen had a few more cannons, the situation would be drastically different. At the same time, the ability to produce heavy weaponry was fundamental to the existence of a survival base. From any perspective, Fishbone Base must develop its own heavy weaponry. So Jiang Chen already started doing that. The electric pulse cannon technology he purchased from Zhao Chenwu had been completely understood by the scientists at the base. Although the production condition at the base was still limited, after half a month, the Fishbone Base workers still managed to use the limited facility to manufacture 6 electric pulse cannons. This vehicle-mounted electric pulse cannon was used as the primary weapon on the tank during the war, but right now it was obviously not feasible to acquire a tank. Therefore, Jiang Chen thought of a compromise. Wheeled the electric pulse cannon onto the improved truck and used steel reinforcement to strengthen the armor of the truck. Then, place a soldier on top to fire the cannon. Therefore, the odd-looking electric pulse cannon vehicle was created by Jiang Chen's wild imagination. Also, he gave this thing a name that couldn't be more childish: Tiger. Low armor, medium mobility, high range, high damage. It was extremely effective in rural areas with scattered structures, but it was a target in the city. Although the design was extreme, they had to work with what they had. On the other hand, following the production of the Hummingbird drone, patrolling outside of the base has been passed on to those palm-sized little guys. The Hummingbird drone has built up a force of over 100 units, which was more than enough to create an attack force. Although those little guys carried a limited amount of ammo, once there were enough of them, they were capable of deadly attacks. The attack on Shangxiang town was set to be 5 days later. The survivors in the base had since been busy. Although attacking in the winter didn't sound like the smartest decision, since it was the boss's decision, they would relentlessly execute it. The military production factory worked around the clock, and the workers under Jiang Chen's instructions installed the electric pulse cannon on the back of the modified trucks. The training ground then became crowded as the soldiers in winter suits, under the command of Cheng Weiguo, began to train. Although everyone was preparing relentlessly, Jiang Chen wasn't too concerned about this attack. It was only a force of 40 mutated humans. Not only did the Fishbone Base have the fire support from the Tiger, but they also had helicopters that acted as gunships. Leaving the mansion wearing a thick winter suit, Jiang Chen headed straight to Jiang Lin's lab. For the scientist passionate about aerospace, Jiang Chen had a keen interest in him. Not only did Jiang Chen clean out a lab for him, but he also gave him a budget of 1,000 crystals a month to purchase related equipment. Although aerospace technology was not helpful to the Fishbone Base now, if rockets were created, not only can they be shot into the sky, but if they're shot downwards, they could be used as missiles. Of course, the purpose of the trip was not to inquire about the missiles, but for something else. When he pushed open the lab door, Jiang Chen stepped into the room and quickly closed the door behind him. He shook off the snow on his body before walking inside the room. What are you working on?" A dazzling amount of electronic parts were randomly stored in the corner of the room. Some of them were needed for the launch of the rockets, and some of them were junk he brought back from Fake Leg Specialty Store. Although Jiang Lin didn't plan to continue his father's business, he still moved his stuff here. Rocket engine. Jiang Lin wore protective goggles with a welding tool in his hand as he concentrated on the parts on the table. Looking at the grease-covered hair, Jiang Chen didn't want to guess the last time he showered. It's great to be passionate about your own business, but did you complete the task I gave you? Jiang Chen walked over to a mechanical leg lying on the ground as he stood beside him. Done. It's on the shelf to your right, and the manual is on the shelf next to it, Jiang Lin said as carefully wielded a single microchip onto the engine, not turning his head. Just need to wait till the weather clears up, install a smart power control into the engine, and then install signal blockage at the tip of the rocket. I am a genius, Jiang Lin mustered to himself as he looked ecstatic. Although Jiang Chen didn't know why. Kinetic Skeleton, Model K1. A line of small words was engraved on the metal strip as Jiang Chen read it out loud. He looked at the mechanical frame in his hand and began to play with it, but after a while, he still didn't have a single clue how it works. So, he took out the manual and began to read it step by step. The light plastic steel metal attached to the four limbs, and the spine position was covered by scale like metal plates. To put it simply, this thing was like a metal skeleton. Although it had a metallic feel to it, it didn't feel cumbersome to wear. Jiang Chen moved his limbs and clenched his fingers, but he still didn't understand how it worked as a confused expression appeared on his face. Seeing that boss wearing his masterpiece, Jiang Lin dropped what he was working on, cleaned his hand and walked over. The start button is on your neck, you can try pressing it. Following Jiang Lin's instruction, Jiang Chen skeptically placed his finger on his neck and quickly found a button. Then he tried pressing it down. A faint static noise was heard as Jiang Chen felt a temporary numbness on the back of his neck. The next second he was completely shocked. It was a surreal feeling, as if the metal strip became a part of his body. What maneuvered his body was no longer his own skeleton, but rather the metal skeleton attached to his body. Jiang Chen moved his limbs as the shock on his face intensified. Describing the feeling was difficult. Precisely, it seemed like the metal skeleton was really his own hand, but his real hand was only a tool he was using. Model K1 Kinetic Skeleton, Fake Legs Specialty Store's masterpiece. A proud smile appeared on Jiang Lin's face as he took a curved plastic steel plate from the side and pressed it onto the empty slot in front of Jiang Chen's chest. Removable armor made of supramolecular polyethylene. It is bulletproof, so it can easily protect you against normal assault rifle bullets. The outside is sprayed with a reflective layer, so it has some defense against laser rifles. Of course, I don't recommend you take a few shots to test the strength of the armor. After he finished, Jiang Lin brought over several curved armors and slotted them onto Jiang Chen's stomach, legs, and shoulders. Almost done. Jiang Lin stood up and clapped his hands together. He then took a tablet from the table and connected a wire to Jiang Chen's armor. Jiang Chen looked at him as his fingers typed furiously on the screen. Quickly, the numb electrocuted sensation from the back of his neck disappeared and was replaced by an astonishing connection of his nerves to his muscles. It was not only simply the metal maneuvering his body, but the metal and body were simultaneously controlled by his brain. Jiang Chen moved his limbs as he became more and more shocked. Seeing the expression on the boss's face, Jiang Lin smiled and quickly backed away. With a pleased gesture, he said proudly, "Try hitting the sandbag." Hearing that, Jiang Chen clenched the fist covered by the thin layer of armor as he used his entire strength to punch. Boom! Dust blew everywhere. The violent force caused the sandbag to cave inward as the metal hanging the sandbag began to squeak in a whimpering noise. Beautiful, let me see. 971 kilograms, not bad. Jiang Lin nodded his head as he scratched his chin and began to adjust the data on the tablet. Not bad, this is insane. Jiang Chen astonishingly stared at his hand as he ridiculed in his mind. A force of nearly 1 ton. An ordinary person's punch would be around 100 kilograms. He remembered Tyson could only punch with a force of 400 kilograms. But the sandbag didn't get punched through. Its quality must be excellent. While being shocked, Jiang Chen gave a few extra looks at the sandbag. Try the strength again. Jiang Lin quickly walked to the end of the room. Jiang Chen moved his leg around to test. When he realized that his coordination was not hindered, he walked over. There stood a metal box the size of a closet. The exposed part seemed similar to the weight of the sandbag. A white metal-covered signal light flashed unknowingly. The monitor on the side produced a faint light. Put your hand on the bar, and then use your maximum power to lift it. Jiang Lin passed a bar-like thing to him as he smiled. Following his instruction, Jiang Chen put his hands on the bar and lifted it up with his entire force. Strength 64. Perfect, Jiang Lin snapped as he said with excitement. Compared to Jiang Lin's excitement, Jiang Chen's mood could be described as ecstatic. With only a few metal frames, it could allow people to acquire strength greater than the genetic vaccine. If every Solider wore a set, Fishbone Base's combat power would more than double. Chapter 174, Out of Stock. If the power armor were the full body armor of the knight, then the kinetic skeleton would be an infantry's chainmail. The entire mass was less than 10 kgs. The supermolecular polyethylene could guard 712 rounds of point-blank shots from a 7.62 assault. If it were an assault rifle from the modern world, it would not even make a dent in the armor. A fur equipping, the maximum weight carried by a single soldier would increase to 300 kilograms. The power source was 2 pieces of battery the size of a fist and was placed above the pelvis area. After a complete charge, it would allow the equipped person to run at a speed of 12 km/h, carrying the 300 kilograms for 1 hour. Or, it could operate in normal combat conditions for 12 hours. The power could be charged through solar cells, or it could instantly be replenished with crystals. It was fair to say, other than the aerospace technology that has yet to see results, a significant factor that Jiang Chen considered when recruiting Jiang Lin was the kinetic skeleton technology of the fake leg specialty store. Although he didn't manage to continue the family business, being forced by his father, he still learned the essential skills. When he personally experienced the power of Model K1 kinetic skeleton, Jiang Chen immediately proposed the feasibility of mass equipping the force. Equipping the force? Jiang Lin was confused when he heard Jiang Chen's question, but then an odd expression appeared on his face. Do you know the time and cost to produce a set of kinetic skeleton like this? How much? Jiang Chen asked carelessly. Based on the official price in the 6th Street, the current set you are wearing cost around 900 crystals. 900 crystals could purchase more than 10 slaves if you give them rifles. Regardless of what kind of super soldier, they can't beat 10-something rifles. Jiang Lin let out a sigh as he started to calculate the economics for Jiang Chen. But the 6th Street no longer sells population. Jiang Chen pressed the button on his neck as the faint static noise rose again, and he took off the kinetic skeleton. The 6th Street doesn't sell population, but other places do. For example, Sioux City. They have the biggest slave market in Suhang Province. They'll come to the 6th Street next spring. Jiang Lin tried to convince his boss. But we can't wait till next spring. Jiang Chen, with a smile, carried the kinetic skeleton in his hands. When the snow melts next year, the mutated human will invade from 7th area to Qingpu. We are the only force that's capable of putting up a defense. Therefore, we will face the most pressure from them. Hearing that, Jiang Lin's face immediately turned white. He has never heard about this before. If he had heard about it, he would not have come to work here even if they beat him to death. The reason why he tried to convince the boss to give up the idea of mass production of the kinetic skeleton was the fact that he was worried his own research time for the rocket would be limited. Do you regret coming here? Jiang Chen smiled. Jiang Lin gulped as he looked away, disheartened. No. Don't be afraid. Your heartbeat already told me you are regretting it. Jiang Chen smiled as he patted him on the shoulder without criticizing his fear. It is okay to be afraid. People fear death for a reason. Since you are afraid, then follow what I have said. I heard that there are a few thousand mutated humans in the 7th area, Jiang Lin strugglingly said. To be exact, There are 3,000. Perhaps a bit more than that, but it's not something you need to worry about. Kinetic skeleton must be mass-produced. Regardless how many crystals we spend, you must manufacture 50 sets before next year January. Jiang Chen used an irrefutable voice. Even with a cost of 900 crystals per set, 50 sets would only be 45,000 crystals. Fishbone Base didn't lack money. It was time to convert the wealth accumulated in the early phases into power. Jiang Lin gulped again as he saw the seriousness in the boss' eyes as he nodded arduously. I'll try my best, but it can't be done with just me. I need help. Just tell me how much assistance you need. Let me think. The hand-crafted metal skeleton would require 10 people, welding the microchips would take 4, drawing the circuit board would need 8, as well as modifying the power system. Based on my estimation, I would require 40 workers to be able to complete a streamlined process. In this case, I could probably manage to complete 50 sets of kinetic skeletons before January. Jiang Lin had a troubled smile. There was a total of 200 people in the base. Everyone had their own duties and responsibilities. It was impossible to assemble a team of 40. But Jiang Chen's following words shocked him. I'll give you 80 people. Could you double the production? Sure, but is there enough people in the base? Jiang Lin had to ask. You don't have to worry about it. We'll have plenty of people soon. Right now, you only need to figure out how to design the production line, how to train your team, and what materials must be purchased. The production force will be ready in 5 days. Jiang Chen laughed. The Fishbone Base didn't have the people, but Shengxiang Town had them. The 700 survivors captured by the mutated humans. He just needed to bring them back. As to whether they would be obedient or not. On the wasteland, there was no inherent difference between being captured and being saved. If they wanted to continue to live, they must be obedient. After coming out of Jiang Lin's lab, Jiang Chen headed to the community center to find the warehouse keeper Wang Qin. When Jiang Chen came to the office, the girl with freckles was going through her books as usual. When she saw Jiang Chen, her eyes lit up as she stopped what she was doing and got up to greet him. I am just here to check the status of the supplies in the base. Don't be so anxious. Jiang Chen gently smiled as he joked. Wang Qin's face blushed shyly. She pushed her glasses up as she took out the tablet terminal and began to display the data to Jiang Chen. First, it was crystals. After the accumulation of several trades, the crystals stored in the Fishbone Base had reached a frightening number of 790,000. Because of the addition of several production lines, the crystals spent last month reached 30,000. This included the purchase of raw materials, as well as direct consumption for fuel in industrial production. Jiang Chen asked Wang Qin to save 500,000 crystals as liquid assets to purchase shares of the about-to-be-established 6th Street Bank. The rest of the 290,000 crystals would be used as production spending. Even with the addition of a kinetic skeleton line, the current amount of stored crystals was more than sufficient. Then it would be the firearm storage. There were 200,000 rounds of ammo stored in the base, with 60% directly manufactured by the base. After they acquired Huizhong Mercenaries' ammo production line, Fishbone Base began to work towards producing its own firearms. Then it would be the 5 kg bombs. This is the standard ammo for the electromagnetic cannon. Following the completion of the Tiger, the military factory's production has been shifting towards bombs. The current stock was 200 rounds, with 50 being produced each day. After a period of consumption, as well as the large quantity of replenishment since the last time he returned, the base currently stored 8 tons of rice, 2 tons of potato, and easy-to-store vegetables like cabbage and carrot totaled 5 tons. Sausage, marinated meat, and other preserved food added up to 2 tons. After Jiang Chen realized it was cheaper to purchase fresh food than canned food, Fishbone Base's cafeteria no longer provided canned food. All cans were only sold, or as an award to survivors that contributed to the base. With the assumption of 1 pound of rice per day per person, this food would last the group of 202 years. But considering the addition of 700 survivors soon, the rate of food consumption would undoubtedly increase. Even with an increase in survivors, the current storage of food would last at least half a year. Also, the base is preparing to add a new kinetic skeleton production line. Jiang Lin will send the list of purchases over in a bit. Send someone to purchase it from the 6th Street. IHaveAMansion. Wang Qin nodded and then wrote Jiang Chen's words in the tablet. Following the increased quantity of supplies, one warehouse keeper was not enough. After asking for Wang Qin's opinion, Jiang Chen added a logistics department to the base's administration, responsible for managing warehouse supplies, daily consumption, and trade-related tasks. Trade was previously the responsibility of Sun Jiao, but she seemed to get a headache with small tasks containing minuscule details, so she threw the duties to the logistics department. The logistics department was of course led by Wang Qin. The department increased to 5 people, managing a total of 6 warehouses. I said you don't have to be so anxious. Seeing how the girl was taking notes seriously, Jiang Chen couldn't stop laughing. Although she had matured compared to when she just got to the base, the trait of blushing did not change at all. Also, what's the status of Zhou Guoping's bar in the 6th Street? After recollecting her previous calmness, Wang Qin pushed her glasses up and said in a focused tone, 4,000 cans of beer were consumed in October, resulting in a total profit of 40,000 crystals. Hearing the news, Jiang Chen nodded. He didn't care about the profitability of the bar. He was more keen on using the traffic generated to bring him intelligence. The beers were only a few bucks in the modern world, which was nothing. But of course, as the saying goes, although mosquitoes were small, meat was still meat, and the income from the beers was quite good. Also, there is something else. Wang Qin saw that Jiang Chen was in a good mood, but she hesitated for a moment before she spoke. IHaveAMansion. The raw material used to produce the automatic rifles and hummingbird drone, the calm tree sap, is out of stock. Out of stock, Jiang Chen frowned. It was a big problem. The threat of mutated human was approaching fast. The Fishbone base was working around the clock to produce firearms, and now calm tree sap was out of stock. The plantation that provided us with calm tree sap terminated the contract and paid us 1,000 crystals as the penalty, Wang Qin said helplessly. Reason. Following the increase in production on the 6th Street, the price of calm tree sap rose by 20%, which is much higher compared to the price signed on the contract. They also signed a large quantity long-term deal with other companies. Therefore, they shamelessly terminated our contract, Wang Qin said in anger. So how much is left in the base? Jiang Chen said in a serious tone. 2 tons left, enough to maintain production for 1 more month. I'll take care of this, Jiang Chen nodded. If the 6th Street can't supply it, the Fishbone base can just produce it on our own. Chapter 175, Produce Ourselves. Growing calm trees. Sun Jiao thought for a second before a troubled look appeared on her face. Is there a problem? We could probably buy the sapling on the market. If we can't, I'll get Zhou Guoping to think of other ways. Jiang Chen didn't understand. No, it's not the problem with tree saplings. Tree saplings are easy to obtain. Seeing that Jiang Chen seemed to be misinterpreting her meaning, Sun Jiao forced a bitter smile. The problem is growing them. Growing? I remember these mutated plants were able to survive in the apocalypse's soil. Is there any problems? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. Typical crops could not grow in the nuclear and biological contaminated soil, but mutated plants that survived the war could. Logically, anything that could grow in the 6th Street, the Fishbone base could grow the same thing. Hearing Jiang Chen's question, Sun Jiao facepalmed as she began patiently explaining the fundamentals. To grow anything on the wasteland, there are 2 factors to consider. 1 is radiation level, and 2 is soil contamination level. As long as there is material exchange with the outside world, it cannot avoid the impact of radiation. There is nothing in the apocalypse that is free of radiation, not even the drinking water treated by the automatic water purifying equipment. It doesn't negatively affect humans because of the existence of the EP and special medication that reduces the radiation level to below the danger threshold. However, plants are not so lucky. To ensure the planted apple does not mutate, the radiation level must be controlled to below 1. If the radiation level is above 5, even normal seeds buried into the ground will become abnormal. With the Sixth Street's technology, it is able to control the radiation level to around 3, which certainly reflects how valuable the fruit cans you brought are. But the mutated plants that survived through natural selection are not that delicate. Their resistance to radiation is quite high. Take calm trees, for example. As long as radiation levels are below 40, it can grow normally. Most of the places on the wasteland have a threshold value between 10 and 20. As long as it's not in a nuclear crater, the radiation level will not reach 40. The soil contamination is relatively easier to solve, since soilless planting technology is incredibly mature in the apocalypse. Therefore, the plantations in the apocalypse can be divided into two kinds. One is the kind that uses soilless technology to grow crops. There is a distinct advantage to growing crops this way, is that it can easily control soil contamination, and the production area would also be greater compared to soil plants. The disadvantage is also evident, mainly being the high cost. To use soilless technology to produce industrial raw materials like calm tree sap would undoubtedly bankrupt the business. It normally would be used to grow luxury goods, such as not completely mutated fruit. The signature building in the 6th Street includes a soilless plantation tower. Of course, because of the appearance of fruit cans, this industry was on the brink of bankruptcy. The other kind is normal soil plantation. Simple and straightforward, planting the seeds and watering them would yield plants. Whether it would be done by human labor with scythes spreading the seeds or mechanical plantation, it would be up to the preference of the owner. It is used to mostly produce non-expensive mutated plants, such as the industrially used calm tree sap and different flavors of tobacco. The advantage of this method is the low cost, but it has a strict requirement for the quality of the soil. Take calm trees, for example. Only plants with soil contamination less than 10 can be used to grow these trees. This type of soil is also extremely rare on the wasteland, so calm tree sap production is not high even on the 6th Street. Previously, this raw material had minimal demand, but during this period, demand far exceeded supply. Couldn't we just purchase soilless equipment? Jiang Chen was refusing to give up. Using soilless equipment to grow calm trees, how much crystals would you use to obtain 1 ton of calm tree sap? Sun Jiao facepalmed, feeling helpless. This is problematic now. Jiang Chen's eyebrows began to twist as he fell into deep thought. But then he suddenly remembered Lin Lin. Yes, the Garden of Eden project. If it is possible to change the local biosphere, there is no reason there is no technology to change the condition of the soil. Well, did you think of something? Sun Jiao looked confusedly as Jiang Chen's always changing expression. IHaveAMansion. The tip of Jiang Chen's mouth curled up. Looks like the little slave in our mansion is finally going to be useful. Sun Jiao instantly understood as a sign of joy also flashed across her face. What? Reduce soil contamination. Why should I help you? With fingers holding onto the test tube, the smooth and silky silver hair hid the disdained expression on Lin Lin's face as she said without any consideration. The one red and one black pupil were the same as when he left before. It seemed that she became used to having an odd creature living inside her body. Because you need to eat, Jiang Chen let out a sigh as he said righteously. He was already becoming bored of looking at her humiliated expression, but this girl seemed to think otherwise. Do you feel great about being bullied now? Seeing the slightly sad Lin Lin drawing on the touch board, Jiang Chen said helplessly. With such a gorgeous face, she had to have such a terrible expression. Go die. With her finger finishing the last line, Lin Lin gave Jiang Chen a hard stare and popped out her tongue to give him a scary face. What is this? Jiang Chen ignored her action as he got closer to the touch board. Ahem, foolish. Lin Lin straightened her back while the tip of her lips curved up. Ahem. Ah, enough. Fine, I'll say it. Lin Lin pouted her mouth in sadness as she touched the screen. The first step is to neutralize the soil. The second step is to use ion membranes to permeate out the heavy metal ions. The third step is... Hold on, what is an ion membrane? Jiang Chen interrupted her as he was completely lost. A thing that can easily filter through the ion particles should be pretty common, Lin Lin said nonchalantly. What? I have never heard about this before. Jiang Chen suddenly recalled that Lin Lin had always stayed in the research facility, for she wouldn't be so clueless about the situation of the apocalypse otherwise. In this case, the common in her mind probably meant common in the lab. Did not think this through. Let me first ask, how many steps does this process include? Jiang Chen was feeling speechless. Not that many, only 24 steps. I have taken a sample of the soil here before, and the contamination level is 68. It's hard to believe in a land this toxic weeds can grow. When the topic revolved around her field of interest, Lin Lin became keener. Does your lab not consider costs when you experiment? Jiang Chen ridiculed. Costs, of course, Lin Lin disagreed. Then tell me after 24 steps, what is the cost? Lin Lin looked at Jiang Chen strangely. Are you misinterpreting something? Project Garden of Eden is not a soil purification project. Since it is a subproject of space colonization, then why do we need to understand how to treat the pollution on Earth? Using organics as well as minerals on other planets, we could produce soil. It is too troublesome to purify it. Produce soil. That's right. It is not difficult to produce soil, at least easier than washing the ground. But since all the finished goods are contaminated here, it would not be easy to find raw ingredients to form clean soil. Lin Lin let out a sigh. Produce soil, other planets. Jiang Chen suddenly smacked his own head as he cursed in his mind. FCK, why didn't I think of this before? It is not that difficult. I can interdimensional travel. If I can carry back food, how difficult would it be to transport a couple of 100 cubic meters of soil? Since the problem was solved, Jiang Chen didn't plan to ask further, so he changed the topic. Okay, let's not talk about this. Oh, did you finish the task I gave you? Chapter 176, Wormhole. Since it has been a while, the Death Claw and mutated lead skin human research should be completed. Of course, who do you think I am? Lin Lin let out a sigh as a confident expression appeared on her face. Follow me. She crooked her finger at Jiang Chen as she turned around, swaying her silver-white hair, and walked to the giant vial in the back. A naked monster with its flesh exposed was in the middle of the vial. The dark green liquid occasionally had bubbles blowing upwards. It seemed like the work of a science freak in American comics, but Jiang Chen didn't focus on that. Rather, he looked at the bottom part of the monster. Just like the rumors say, no DCK. Lin Lin pointed her delicate finger and pressed the touchscreen on the side of the vial. Several orange lights shined into the hologram screen in front of them. The list of data on the screen had Jiang Chen completely lost. Lin Lin, standing beside him, looked at him contemptuously in secret. She imprudently made fun of Jiang Chen's ignorance in her mind before speaking with her head held high. Muscle strength or body strength 63, bone strength 47, reflex 20, brain cell strength 9. From a human perspective, without overexerting the body's capabilities, this is the limit of the body's strength. Speaking of is this guy still considered human? Lin Lin had her finger on her chin as she muttered to herself. Jiang Chen glanced at her. Is this girl still considered human? The cell in the body is modified by the FEV virus. Similarly, the skin is implanted with heavy metal. The lead skin could be compared to C-type steel, and it could easily defend against standard bullets. The regeneration of the cell is ridiculously fast. Based on the data of the body's DNA, even if it lost an arm, it would be able to grow one back in a week's time. Although I never fought before, if this thing was put in the battlefield, it should be invincible, right? The pacifist Lin Lin even started to exclaim about the battle ability of this thing. Does it not have any weaknesses? Jiang Chen had a troubled smile. Of course, Lin Lin nodded. First, because of the influence of heavy metal, their nervous system is extremely weak. The brain cell strength is as low as 9. Also, their life is limited. Based on its DNA and regeneration calculation, their life expectancy is only 30 years. Also, if their head or heart is destroyed, they will die instantly. It was the same as not saying anything. Which creature would still live without a brain or heart? Jiang Chen let out a sigh. Looks like there is no shortcut to this. To destroy this dangerous thing, we would have to depend on Tiger, using its pure explosive power of electromagnetic cannons to blow this thing into pieces. Also, can I ask a question? Lin Lin abruptly spoke out. Go ahead. When I first acquired the body, I was utterly astonished. What did you do to destroy every single cell in the mutated human's body? Lin Lin looked oddly at Jiang Chen as she was clueless. It was time travel, but he did not dare to tell her yet. Jiang Chen subtly looked away as he began to come up with a vague response. Well, I used a special weapon that instantly ended all cell activity. Speaking of this, what do those cells look like under the microscope? The cell membrane broke. Based on the way it broke, it appeared to be due to extremely low temperatures that caused the fluid in the cell to freeze. It is peculiar, as if without preparation it traveled through a wormhole with entropy infinitely approaching 0, Lin Lin doubtingly said, as she stared at Jiang Chen. Extremely low temperatures, but there was no temperature change during time travel. Jiang Chen slightly raised his eyebrows and didn't notice Lin Lin's look of doubt. Seeing Jiang Chen had no reaction, Lin Lin continued. Passing through an area with entropy infinitely approaching 0 would have no impact on dead things, but for something alive, it would be nearly impossible for them to remain alive. But as the shortcut to intergalactic travel, passing through a wormhole is a topic that can't be avoided, as how to travel through wormholes had a lot of interesting hypotheses in the physics world. Among them, Dr. Klein's hypothesis had the most authority. Klein, Jiang Chen felt that he had heard this name before. That's right. To put it in a simple analogy, mass and energy through two completely parallel tunnels cross the wormhole. As she said this, Lin Lin grabbed a pen to draw a cylinder on the whiteboard. Then she drew two parallel lines, one pass-through inside the cylinder and another pass-through outside the cylinder. As long as you send the energy at the entrance of wormhole through the tunnel into another dimension to the end of the wormhole, and meet with the mass that passes through the wormhole there, it would avoid the part where entropy decreases in the wormhole. Detach the energy, wouldn't that creature die instantly? Jiang Chen didn't understand. Therefore, this is the brilliance of Dr. Klein. Lin Lin sighed. She drew T1 and T2 at the ends of the whiteboard and gave then a value to 0. Time, based on research within the wormhole, time, space, and all physics principles are ambiguous. To put it in simple terms, you could spin around a few times before walking to the exit, or you could instantly head for the exit when you enter the wormhole. As long as you find the perfect route, you could decrease the time to pass through the wormhole to 0. I'll give you an analogy. A door frame is put in front you. You have a ball in your hand that represents your temperature. Based on the rule, when the ball passes through the doorframe, I will take it away from you. So instead, the instant you're about to cross the door frame, you throw the ball up and the ball would fly above the doorframe. Then, once you go through the doorframe, you catch the ball and successfully pass through the door with the ball. I see. Jiang Chen half understandingly nodded his head. Therefore, how did you pass through the door? I don't know. I used the bracelet. Suddenly, Jiang Chen looked cautiously at Lin Lin and narrowed his eyes. You are setting me up. The fool wants to say it himself. The tip of Lin Lin's mouth raised in proudness as she said nonchalantly. You are playing with fire. She seemed to have sensed the grimace in Jiang Chen's tone as Lin Lin sacredly moved back. The proud expression completely vanished. I am only curious. I have no other intention. Also, you suddenly appeared from the tent last time. I already had an idea after seeing so much food in the base. You must be an alien, right? An alien. Jiang Chen paused for a moment before he burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Lin Lin worked up her courage and fainted protested. Nothing. Since you already guessed most of it, I'll tell you. Jiang Chen smiled. I am a time traveler from the past, from the year 2015. Lin Lin took some time to think before she raised her pair of serene eyebrows. Time traveler from the past. You already said all physics principle doesn't apply in the wormhole since it could avoid the space continuum. Time continuum would not be a problem too, right? Jiang Chen shrugged. Based on the theory, yes. Although out of the 6 colonization ships, 3 passed through the wormhole. As to the specifics of passing through the wormhole, only they would know. Lin Lin nodded, but then looked at Jiang Chen doubtfully. I didn't know that this stingy devil could tell me this secret. What if I told you? Jiang Chen with a smile looked at the one black and one red pupil. I don't plan to ever let you go. Hearing that, Lin Lin's face instantly turned red, as it was the rare time she didn't bad-mouth back, but rather shifted her eyes to the side. Jiang Chen didn't realize the other meaning in his words as he looked at the girl, forced to be obedient pleasingly. Also, what about that death claw? Is the result out? When he mentioned the death claw, Lin Lin, rarely tense, turned serious. I found some odd things on the death claw. What? After leaving from Lin Lin's lab, Jiang Chen fell into deep thought thinking about what she just said. Everyone knew that the starting point of the X1 virus was to purify radiation, but because it experienced uncontrollable mutation under the radiation environment, it turned into the frightening virus. But X2's design philosophy was rather dubious. As the improved version of the X1 virus, X2's purification ability was increased, but the food for thought element was that the effect of infiltrating creatures' nervous system was not removed, but rather strengthened. It also increased the structure of the cell, making it harder to be eliminated by the immune system. As if it was designed to eliminate all humans, along with the radiation. The fortunate part was that because the cell's DNA structure was too stable, it could not split through binary fission. It could only produce through the mother's body. Therefore, after Jiang Chen cleared out the source in the area, the X2 virus slowly began to vanish. Could it be born through X1's own mutation, since there is radiation everywhere? Impossible, Lin Lin shook her head as she rejected Jiang Chen's doubt with certainty. The death claw evolved to have armor, simplified its molecular chain to develop claws, and these were all part of natural selection. To survive, creatures would be forced to adapt and evolve certain traits, but not put a lock on its own life. The complicated breeding mechanism has no practical meaning for survival, and it is impossible that X2 was born through evolution. She paused before continuing. The only possibility is that someone created the X2 virus. But what I don't understand is, the X1 virus data should already have been on board with the colonization ship. Could it be another scientist that didn't manage to make it onto the ship created it? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. I am not sure, Lin Lin shook her head, but one point is certain, and that is the people who developed the X2 virus definitely have no good intentions. Someone wanted the humans on the wasteland to become extinct. But who could it be? Mutated humans have enough of a reason, but a virus that the death claw couldn't even handle, could they resist it? But if it was not the mutated human, who had the motives to do this? Suddenly, a frightening thought popped into Jiang Chen's mind. If wormholes could create time travel, then where did the 3 space colonization ships go? Did they really completely abandon this planet? Chapter 177, Slavery. Seatbelt check, ready to depart. Chunan closed the hatch. Don't worry, I checked already. Jiang Chen, wearing the kinetic skeleton, pointed at his shoulder and smiled. This is procedure. Okay, lift off. Chunan opened the engine switch while signaling the apprentice in the co-pilot position to keep an eye on the monitors on the right side. Woohoo! Outside of the helicopter, high-voltage static began to hum. Under the push of the furious vortex flow, the 51 helicopter began to lift off slowly. Sitting across Jiang Chen was the gunner. The young man wearing orange protective gear felt shy with the base leader sitting across from him. "Don't be anxious." Jiang Chen gave him a friendly smile. "Yes," the young man shouted out just as he wanted to stand up to salute. He was comically pulled back by the seatbelt. Jiang Chen laughed as he waved his hand signally there was no need. Then he focused his gaze on what was happening outside the window. It stopped snowing, but the snow had yet to melt. It was the first time overseeing the entirety of Wangai City in the sky. A frozen world. The city at dawn shone brightly. The glittering colors seemed to have fended off the gloom of the radiation dust in the air. If it was not for the occasional zombie, as well as the unhealthy colored smog, he could almost forget that he was in the apocalypse and was instead in a snowy city in the northern kingdom. "From this view, the city is quite beautiful," Jiang Chen exclaimed while looking through the window. "The first time is indeed powerful, but if you fly every day you'll get used to it," Chu Nan laughed. "Yeah," Jiang Chen smiled as he didn't disagree. 5 Tigers, 1 armored vehicle carrying supplies, 30 light infantry carrying Reaper assault rifle, as well as 2 snipers equipped with Ghost sniper rifles. The destination was Shangxiang Town. This was Fishbone Base's first attack on the mutated humans. Jiang Chen didn't need to come, but considering they needed the 700 captured survivors at the base, it would be best for the Fishbone leader to stand out and say something. Also, to observe the battle from above was something he looked forward to. About to be in contact with radiation dust, put on the mask. As he spoke, Chu Nan pulled the mask down over his helmet. "Received." Jiang Chen pressed a few buttons on the kinetic skeleton, picked up the helmet on the chair beside him, and connected the extension to the slot. It snowed, but this level of coldness was as indifferent as the spring breeze to the mutated humans. Even if they were fully exposed to the external conditions, they could still stand tall in the chilling snowstorm, ignoring the furious wind, and unleash the full firepower of the guns in their hands. They were natural warriors. Viewing highly of themselves, they were the terminators of the old civilization. Even if their bodies were unafraid of the cold, long winter journeys were still extremely difficult for them. Additionally, the stronger the body, the higher the supply consumption. Since west of Zhufeng Road had been entirely blocked by the snow, it meant it was nearly impossible for vehicles to traverse across it, and this fact put the already short supply line under more pressure. There were only 2 options in front of the mutated humans. 1. Send a team to Shangxiang Town across the Taifu River bank to establish an outpost, and then send the primary force to Wangai City. 2. Wait till next spring to invade Wangai City. There was no possibility of the mutated humans and humans to reach a peaceful negotiation. Once they encountered each other, it would be a bloodbath. As for the decision to invade Wangai City and engage in conflicts with the local human force, the mutated human leader was cautious. Different from the scattered survivors in Jia City, as the hotspot during the war, Wangai City had multiple survivor camps that inherited frontier military technology before the war. If they had to engage in conflict with the human force, the mutated human would rather have it happen during the winter. If they waited for spring, the advantage of the mutated humans being able to fight in harsh climates would be non-existent. At the same time, hungry mutants would wake up from hibernation, which would make the trip into city center more problematic. Because of the above reasons, the mutated humans decided to go with Plan 1 for now. Although the highway between 7th Area and Shangxiang Town was completely blocked by snow, the road condition from Shangxiang Town to Wangai City was relatively smooth. As long as they establish an outpost to store supplies, the pressure of the supply line would be greatly alleviated. A winter crusade would be possible. Therefore, the captured survivors in Shangxiang Town were not immediately escorted back, but rather were forced to construct defensive structures by the mutated humans there. Outside Shangxiang Town, the outline of the reinforced concrete wall was starting to become visible. The sides of the road were piled with wood chips and were placed as obstacles and barriers to block the major roads outside of the town. But when the mutated humans arrived, the flimsy barrier could not bring even the slightest sense of security to the survivors hiding behind cover. The monster-wielding steel carried machine guns, and the bullet storm destroyed the mental fortitude of every defender. In the shack not far away from this place, the painted concrete wall was cut in half by the coilless cannon. On the shambles were terrifying bullet holes, and the blood stains on the wooden floor in the room were still clearly visible. The survivors defending behind cover could not cause a single casualty to the attacking mutated humans. But when the first mutated human passed through the wooden barrier, tens of bodies were already on the ground, which forced the survivors to raise the white flag and surrender. The recalcitrant's body was pierced by wooden spears, hung in the snow being eroded by the snowstorm, and eaten by the mutated rats, just like a flag, declaring the cruelty of the victors. Wang Pin, with cold eyes, stared at the frail humans as they dragged concrete and steel through the snow with difficulty, building up their outpost. "Move quicker, you damn pests. Who said you could stop, IHaveAMansion?" A horrific-looking mutated human held a whip as he cursed at the slaves. His whip regularly beat at the weak figures, without any care if they actually made a mistake or not. The frightened faces instinctively made him feel joyful. Since he couldn't acquire pleasant sensations physiologically, the body full of male hormones could only be alleviated through primal violence. "Luke, don't accidentally kill them. Even if they are pests, they still have value in entertaining us." Wang Pin strolled beside the supervisor as he flashed his mouth full of fangs. Looking at the boy lying in the snow, he did not hide his eyes full of disgust and disdain. The mutated human, after being reborn, would rename themselves, abandoning the ancient ethics along with their name. "Ha!" Luke flung the whip in his hand as he laughed. "Cowards, all eyes on me." The people carrying bags of concrete all stopped. Men, women, elderly, and children. The white snow circled around them, but it could not hide their terrified looks. They could not scream, nor be anger. The chilling cold already caused their facial nerves to lose any sense of feeling. The bloodthirsty mutated humans made them forget the dignity they had. He looked at the numb faces with satisfaction. Luke lowered his head and looked at the boy trembling in the snow. With a grimace, he lifted his foot and stepped on the youthful face. "Ah!" The suppressed scream came from the bottom of his foot, as the frozen fingers tightly grasped onto the ground as he crashed into the freezing snow. The father of the boy stood on the side with his shoulders trembling. His bloodshot eyes widened at the scene. The mutated humans on the side carried their rifles as they mockingly looked at the slaves being humiliated. The lack of entertainment meant that the thing they loved to do the most was to humiliate the helpless slaves. FEV virus was magical. The magical part was that it would make the modified person forget any previous reluctance and experience the sensation of evolution. They would forget about their hatred towards the mutated humans and willingly join the new party, and in turn shift their hatred onto the old species unwilling to accept evolution. "No!" A deafening scream broke the silence. A woman with messy hair leaped onto the snow as she tightly held onto the mutated human's foot while desperately trying to save the boy being stepped on. "Mom!" The boy's eyeballs were protruding because of pressure, his mouth weakly moved. Luke apathetically observed the woman from above, coldly staring at the plea and despair in her eyes. "Get out!" The cold words left his mouth. Luke lifted the foot, stepping on the boy's face as he kicked her chest mercilessly and sent the woman flying. She struggled to stand up from the snow. The edges of her mouth had blood dripping down as she coughed. But her eyes didn't look at Luke, and instead looked at the boy freed from under his foot. A tender smile appeared on her face as she crawled to the kid. For some reason, the expression on the woman's face enraged Luke. "Stop," he arrogantly ordered. The woman ignored him as she shakingly moved her arms in the boy's direction. Seeing his mom was getting closer, the boy looked relieved. But then a rifle was pointed at her head. She blankly looked at it as despair appeared on her face. Could it not be here?" She used her trembling voice to plead. The second she leaped out from the crowd, she knew her fate. The people who dared to defy them all died, no exception. If possible, she didn't want to die in front of her child. Luke's face held a disdained grimace. This person wanted to discuss terms with him. Let her go. A man stood out, but his legs and shoulders trembled. Luke scorned. I am willing to die for her. This sentence seemed to have taken all of his courage. The woman looked at the man with eyes wide open, as the sign of life began to vanish from her face. The cracked mouth opened as a powerless voice whispered out. And no. Then go die. Luke immediately fired. The bullet penetrated his chest and even hurt the elder behind him. The crowd howled. The woman's scream was filled with heartbreak, and the boy's eyes opened wide as he watched his father fall into the snow. Seeing the woman on all fours scrambling to crawl to her husband, Luke's face revealed a psychotic but satisfied smile. He lifted his gun again, as he was about to execute the woman that dared to dirty his feet. But just at that moment, Wang Pin, standing on the side, gently put his hand on the lifted rifle. Chapter 178. The Unscientific Electromagnetic Cannon. The woman covered her husband as the body's temperature began to drop. The woman desperately tried to use her own heat to warm him, to save his fatting life. I love you. No, I won't allow you to go. Droplets of tears rolled down the woman's cheek, splattering on the blood-soaked jacket. Sorry. I don't want your apology. I don't. The heartbreaking scream could not stop the body's temperature from dropping. Luke moved his eyes away from the two as he looked confusedly at his companion. He didn't understand his intention. It's too boring to kill them, buddy. You haven't learned the essence of torture. Wang Pin patted his shoulder, pretending to sound wise as he cracked a smile. Oh, Luke raised his eyebrows as he stuffed the gun into his lap. Go ahead then. Wang Pin took the gun with a grimace on his face. He ignored the woman looking at him with anger and fear, and turned to the other pigs. Pigs, listen up. Now, anyone who RPS her will be given freedom. The crowd became unsettled, but no one came up. Luke looked at his colleague, not understanding his intention. He didn't know what was the purpose of seeing herds of humans in intercourse. That's right, herds. From the mutated human's perspective, humans were only livestock. Due to traces of memory being left from before their transformation, they didn't eat human flesh like cannibals. However, they would not shy away from any cruelty to obtain a sense of joy from the howling humans. No one. If I remember correctly, this woman, to your standard of beauty, should be quite attractive. Wang Pin continued to hold his rifle and said slowly. Is there any purpose in this? Luke was still confused. Of course, buddy, learn from me. Other than killing, there are a lot of other ways to dig out the despair in their hearts. Wang Pin smiled with a grimace as he licked his dry lips. He then looked at the frightened woman backing away from him. Lying on top of her husband's yet-to-be cold body, under the watch of her son, and humiliated by countless people. What kind of despair would be on such a face? The idea is making me excited. Isn't the whole purpose of the existence of civilization to blossom the glimpse of light under the torture of the primal? Ha ha ha. The cruel laughter was deafening, shaking off the snow on trees that were a few kilometers away. Luke blankly looked at the psychotic smile on his colleague, as an excited expression appeared on his face. SHT, you are a genius. Oh devil, you must be an artist in your previous life. Who knows? Wang Pin smiled as he used his gun to point at the closest man. You go fuck her. The man gulped, gritted his teeth, and defiantly said, I can't do it. Bang! Like a piece of paper, he fell onto the ground. The man's face still maintained a defiant expression, with a glimpse of disbelief. Next, Wang Pin pointed the gun at the next man, a middle-aged man holding his bleeding arm. Trembling, the middle-aged man walked a few steps, before finally kneeling onto the ground. Bang! Wang Pin didn't give him the opportunity to explain, as he immediately blew up his head. Red and white splattered everywhere, and even splashed onto the person behind him. Wang Pin raised his chin and targeted the next person. Perhaps terrified by the horrific scene, the third person only hesitated slightly before looking down and running to the woman with trembling steps. "Sorry, please forgive me." The man was afraid to look at the expression on the woman's face as he mercilessly reached for her collar. And no, the woman's eyes widened in despair. The man ignored her struggling plea. He ignored all the morals and dignity of the human civilization and pushed her down on the body that was still slowly losing its temperature. In his mind, he was desperately trying to comfort himself. If he didn't do it, he would die. He was doing it, but it was not his intention. Wang Pin pleasingly looked at the man's action. The joy of ripping the civilization apart was almost making him shake in excitement. Luke, standing on the side, also had his eyes wide open. He was only a mutated human for less than 2 years, and it was the first time he witnessed such a joyful moment other than from violence. Wang Pin raised his gun again, pointing at the next person. Just as he was about to speak, he heard the shout of the patrol. "What is that?" The mutated human carrying an assault rifle pointed at the black dot in the sky. He raised his eyebrows as Wang Pin looked up. "What is?" Boom! Mixed with thick smoke, the snow on the ground blew up like an avalanche as it flew over the crowd. The shockwave flipped people onto the ground as the frightened crowd ditched the concrete and steel bags in their hands. They ran to the nearest barrier or ducked into the field. The mutated humans didn't stop them, because their situation was not any better. "Damn it, what is it?" Wang Pin crawled up from the ground as he looked at the thick smoke 10 meters away with horror. The bloodthirsty pupils contracted as a rare sense of fear surfaced. Direct hit. Beautiful, Jiang Chen smiled as he gave a thumbs up to the gunner. The furious wind blew through the hatch door as the orange protective suit gusted in the chill. The gunner wearing his mask turned and nodded his head to express his gratitude towards Jiang Chen's praise. Then, without stopping, he carried another 10 kg bomb and stuffed it into the cartridge as the cannon began to charge. At this moment, Jiang Chen had a tablet in his hand. The flashing picture on the scene was of the entire battlefield. The camera located below the helicopter holistically presented the overview of the battlefield to the commander. The green dot hidden 3 kilometers away from the town was Fishbone Base's light infantry. The 5 Tigers were scattered behind buildings, only exposing the electromagnetic cannon. The vehicle was also covered with white cloth, which camouflaged the vehicle perfectly with the snow. This only left the pitch-black cannon visible. The red dots signaled were enemy units marked out by the sniper, while the gray dots were civilians. The thick smoke rising from the ground was the truck destroyed by the helicopter cannon. The anti-air machine gun had yet to unleash its power before being blown up into metal shards. The mutated humans who lost their air defense began to flee. Jiang Chen observed the battlefield. It was like playing a game. Also worth mentioning, the command system attached to the helicopter was the masterpiece of Yao Yao. The purpose of civilization is to punish the primal brutality. As if it was meant to rebuttal the clamor, Jiang Chen mustered to himself. "Since the Grim Reaper has already arrived on the battlefield, then you bastards must go die." He coldly overwatched the fleeing figures on the screen as his finger pointed at the red dot on the screen. Whoosh! The trident-shaped cannon began to flash a faint blue electric light, followed by a screeching homing noise. The orange arc smashed to the ground. The noise of the bomb breaking the sound barrier almost covered the screaming northern wind. Chapter 179, Smite. The orange arc explosion penetrated the cloud-shaped sound barrier. Followed by the explosive homing, the cylinder-shaped bomb rapidly spun. Just like God smiting the sins in the world, it smashed directly into the fleeing mutated humans. Boom! Snow knee-deep blew up into the air and mixed with shattered soft lead debris as it rained down onto the surrounding area. Without the need for explosives and just using pure mechanical power, the 10 kg bomb blew up in the enemy's base. Soft lead-made bombs allowed the bomb to break into thumb-sized pieces and scatter under the heavy air pressure. This instantly blew the mutated humans nearby away like paper. The concrete wall nearby completely collapsed. The debris 10 meters away even left bowl-sized holes on the wall. FCK, what is that damn thing? Wang Pin struggled to stand up from the snow. He lifted his blood-filled face and frightenedly stared at the black dot in the sky. Luke was already dead. He saw the head meters away from the body. The poor guy had his neck blown off by debris as his entire head was severed from his body. It's a helicopter. Damn it, why would Liuding townspeople be here? The mutated human hiding behind the barrier raised his binoculars as he said with a trembling voice. Liuding town. When he heard the word, Wang Pin instant felt a chill overwhelm his body. His limbs felt cold. Without hesitation, he got up and ran for his life to the concrete-made barrier. Based on rumors, on the wasteland near Wangai City, only humans on the aircraft carrier inherited flight units before the war. But why would they show up here, while they were located hundreds of kilometers away? Boom! The deafening blast ended his thought as the snow and debris covered him. The bomb didn't just come from the sky, it also came from the horizon. As if it was an agreement, 5 arcs smashed into the mutated human base like iron fists. The half-completed reinforced concrete wall was instantly shattered into pieces. As the pieces of concrete flew backward, the mutated humans taking cover behind it all dropped to the ground. The ones yet to be killed crawled into the town. Although the electromagnetic cannon used 5 kg bombs, it was not inferior compared to the strike from the dome. God, please stop. Crawling into the corner of a room and covering his head, a mutated human roared with a whimpering voice. The rifle along with his arrogance were all thrown into the snow. Damn it, where is the anti-air cannon, we? Under the far fire range, the mutated humans' machine guns were like toys. The only purpose of their shouting was to unleash the fear in their hearts. The occasion bomb that flew to Fishbone Base's side smashed into the building used as cover without any accuracy. However, on the Fishbone Base side, with the guidance of snipers as well as aerial coverage, the 5 Tiger fired simultaneously and accurately, eliminating the mutated humans' firepower and shattering their morale. Someone seems to be using rifles to shoot at us. Jiang Chen looked at the screen and smiled. His finger lightly drew on the screen as he circled a few red dots. Debris flew up as the red dots were blown up to pieces by the bombs. Only that anti-air machine gun is a bit threatening. Even if the assault rifle bullets could hit this far, the airflow would make it lose its accuracy. Chu Nan laughed, initiated automatic hovering, and moved his hands away from the controls. Oh, Jiang Chen answered absent-mindedly. His eyes were focused on the red dots on the screen. He then pressed his finger on the guy covering his head and ducking into the snow. Although those monstrous humans did not deserve mercy, the apathetic feeling of killing people through a screen still shocked him. Oh right, correction, they were not human. Speaking of something else, how's that wife of yours? Jiang Chen dragged his finger on the green dots and pointed on the location of the road. After receiving the command, 20-something light infantries began to move to the target location. He then pointed a few more times on the screen, and the other 20 light infantries crossed the barriers, pushing forward to the target area through the front. Not bad, Chu Nan answered concisely, as he didn't seem to want to continue on the topic. Oh, even if he accepted, his heart must not feel so great. Jiang Chen didn't ask further. Over half of the mutated humans stationed in Shengxiang town were eliminated. The remaining ones were under the heavy fire suppression of the electromagnetic cannon. The steel plate in front of their chests could block bullets, but when the bullets changed to electromagnetic cannons, it was as good as paper. While maintaining fire suppression, the 2 squads of light infantry quickly captured the mutated humans hiding in the barriers. As to the mutated humans still reluctant to give up, merciless cannons awaited them. Beep! A screeching alarm began to sound. What's that noise? Jiang Chen frowned. What else could it be? RPG, flying sword, anti-air missile. The mutated humans probably dug it up from a pack armory, Chu Nan said casually as he simultaneously pressed a button beside the control panel. Clicking. Within the vision of the tablet, a few flashing sparks began to fall. The approaching anti-air missile directly hit one of the rebels and scathed by the helicopter. Electromagnetic lure. These things that chase after high-frequency electronic devices are easy to deal with. The anti-air machine gun is more reliable. Chu Nan laughed contemptuously as he put his hands behind his head and sank further into the chair. Jiang Chen pointed his finger at the guy reloading the RPG, but Jiang Chen didn't use electromagnetic cannons this time. Instead, he commanded the infantry to attack him. He was very interested in the anti-air missile. If he could seize it, why would he destroy it? Cheng Weiguo leaned tightly against the cover as he checked the coordinates on the EP. Then he signaled the team on the other side to throw a smoke bomb as they quickly pushed further into the town. An unfair battle. With the firepower advantage, the mutated humans' muscles and their strength in numbers were not worth mentioning. They already crossed their defensive structure. At this point, his force still maintained 0 casualties. Pointing the rifle out of cover, Cheng Weiguo aimed at the mutated human, with half of his body exposed carrying the RPG, and pulled the trigger. Tada! The bullets instantly forced the mutated human to take cover and shredded more of the already in shambles concrete wall into pieces. The soldiers on the other wing quickly rushed in, just like how they were trained in exercise. The gunshots afar began to disappear. The force attacking from the side already controlled the south area of the town. The battle in the east should also be over. Cheng Weiguo tugged at the thick scarf around his neck. His beard covered with ice shards, he breathed out a few white puffs. Team A attack the town center and control the warehouse. Team B follow the boundary to clear out the area. Team C take control of the captives. Move. Yes, sir. The synced roar echoed within the communication channel. Cheng Weiguo put the rifle on his arm, looked up at the black dot in the sky, and he saluted. But at this time, the snow beside him suddenly moved as he immediately pointed the gun at the pile. He maintained shooting position as he slowly moved to cover, using his feet to remove the snow. It was a face. The boy feebly looked at him, with a bruise printed on his face. Seeing this, Cheng Weiguo quickly kneeled down, used the handle of the gun to sweep the snow off of him, and dragged him out from the snow. "So I saved my mom." Looking at the boy's face, the feeling of yet to extinct justice made him feel enraged. "Where is she?" He held onto the boy's hand and said firmly. "There," the boy faintly pointed at the pile of snow on the side. Cheng Weiguo put him on a concrete bag as he carried the gun and traversed through the snow to the pile. He dug through the snow and found a man. He was slightly shocked, but soon saw the woman below the man. The woman's body was exposed, her hair messy. Her breathing was faint as if she could lose her life at any second. The man on top of her already lost his breath. The soft lead debris penetrated his body. The shattered glasses was covered in blood. At the moment, Cheng Weiguo didn't understand the relationship between them, especially when he saw that there was another man under her. Regardless, saving her life was more important. He dragged the already dead man out of the snow. Cheng Weiguo then helped the sandwiched woman up. "It's all over, your son is beside you." But in an instant, the woman's eyes became widened as she stared at something behind him. Suddenly alerted, Cheng Weiguo hugged the woman and rolled onto the ground. Dong! A steel beam pierced the location he previously stood in, as it deeply penetrated into the concrete bag. The blood-covered Wang Pin stared at Cheng Weiguo in rage as he leaped towards him roaring. Without hesitation, he raised his gun, and the rifle unleashed its power on the mutated human's chest as blood began to splatter. But the mutated human did not back down as he took the bullets and pushed Cheng Weiguo onto the ground. Roar! The mutated human clenched onto the Reaper assault rifle, attempting to take it from Cheng Weiguo's hands. Cheng Weiguo tightly clenched his teeth, his face entirely red. Obviously, he was no match for the mutated human's strength as the gun began to move in the mutated human's direction. Seeing he could not outmatch the mutated human strength, he immediately let go. Because of the sudden jerk, Wang Pin's body immediately tilted up with the rifle, grasping onto the opportunity. Cheng Weiguo swiftly grabbed the dagger on his leg and swung it at Wang Pin's throat. The dagger flashed through, as blood began to splash all over the ground. Wang Pin dropped the rifle onto the ground as he covered his throat, pouring out blood. His mouth was open, but he couldn't say a word. He could only use the blood and his widened eyes to show his disbelief and bitterness. Grabbing the rifle on the ground, Cheng Weiguo, without hesitation, pressed the gun to his forehead and pulled the trigger. There was more blood. Wang Pin's shoulder loosened as he fell backward, deep into the thick snow. At the same time, the woman's shoulder began to loosen up too. Alive. Kneeled on the ground, she leaned her face against the snow pile beside her. She couldn't feel the coldness on her face anymore. Chapter 180, Colony. The battle ended swiftly, completely in contrast with the stalemate they were in when they encountered the mutated humans last time. The 30 infantries who entered the town did not suffer any casualties, and only one unlucky guy was shot in the leg by a recalcitrant mutated human. The bullet happened to pass through his artery. Although the blood gushing out was quite frightening, the combat medic was quick to rescue, and the man was no longer in a life-threatening condition. A total of 35 mutated humans were killed, including 29 who died from electromagnetic pulse cannon, and 6 of which died from assault rifle and sniper attacks. 5 were captured, and although mutated humans would rarely take the humiliation of being captured by a human lying down, under that overwhelming firepower, instinctive fear prevailed over the ridiculous pride. A total of 721 human captives were rescued. If the bodies outside the town were all dead, the population of the town should be 779 before the mutated humans came. There were bullet holes the size of a bowl throughout the exterior buildings outside of the town, and collapsed concrete buildings could be seen everywhere, half of which were destroyed by the mutated humans. The Fishbone Base infantry maintained the order of the queue as they recorded all the rescued townspeople, and then provide them with the nutrient supply that originally belonged to them. The 5 Tigers didn't drive into the city but stopped at the bridgehead of Zhufeng Highway. A few soldiers were carrying concrete bags to build 5 crude bunkers. This move was very intriguing. All the Shengxiang townspeople had one thought hovering in their mind: do these people want to stay here? They had a sense of foreboding. Their Type 51 helicopter landed about a half-kilometer away from the town in an open space. Jiang Chen, clad in kinetic skeletons, jumped down from the top. Cheng Weiguo, along with the mayor of the town, greeted Jiang Chen and saluted after seeing him. "Did you finish the census?" Jiang Chen cut to the chase. "It's done." Cheng Weiguo handed a tablet to Jiang Chen for him to check. Jiang Chen swiped the screen while he perused the statistics. Population: 721 captive mutated humans, 5. Seized: 24 machine guns, 72 various models of rifles, 100,000 rounds of bullets, 1 shoulder-launched missile, 5 surface-to-air missiles, 5 recoilless cannons, and 40 rounds of ammunition. And there were 40 sets of C-type steel armors, though most of them were destroyed in the explosion. Looking at these batches of firearms, Jiang Chen was secretly stunned. Oh boy, these firearms reserves could catch up with the entire assets of the Fishbone Base. It could be seen that these mutated humans invested a lot in this outpost, but now all of these belonged to Jiang Chen. These firearms would remain here, but he ordered the armors to be shipped back. Although these lumps of irons were of little value to humans, nevertheless it's still pretty good to reforge them. Fishbone Base could use more C-type steels. With about 10 tons of steel, however, modifying them into 2 armored vehicles wouldn't be a problem. In addition, there were also hundreds of preserved mutants' cadavers which appeared to be the food of mutated humans, since only they could eat something this toxic. However, so as not to waste anything, Jiang Chen still ordered Cheng Weiguo to throw these into the organic extractor to produce some nutrient supplies. With the ratio of 1 mutant to 100 nutrient supplies, it could easily extract 10,000 nutrient supplies, including the 30,000 in the storage. He temporarily did not have to worry about the rations of more than 700 people. What excited him most was the construction materials that he seized. The mutated humans left a huge amount of cement and steels in the warehouse which were originally used to build an outpost, but right now they were in his hands. With these batches of prefabricated construction materials, Jiang Chen could easily stretch out reinforced concrete defensive line along the shore. He returned the tablet to Cheng Weiguo, said a few words, and the latter received the order at once and left. Then Jiang Chen finally turned to look at the mayor, who had been standing there, and smiled amiably at him. Seeing that Jiang Chen was looking at him, the mayor quickly bowed. "The Honorable Fishbone Base Leader, Mr. Jiang Chen, on behalf of all the survivors in Shangxiang Town, I would like to express our utmost gratitude and sincerity to you." "Don't worry about it. Do tell what's your name." "Deng Bin." "Okay, Mr. Deng Bin, I want to go to the town hall now. Do you have time to take me there?" "My pleasure," Deng Bin bowed again. To be honest, as the mayor, their savior's behavior after eliminating the mutated humans made him very uneasy. At the moment, however, they were wielding guns, and the entire military power of the town was wiped out after the onslaught of mutated humans. Not possessing confidence nor knowing what to say, he could only meekly follow Jiang Chen on the side. With hands in his pocket, Jiang Chen looked at the surrounding buildings while walking on the road leading to the town hall. The reek of blood lingered in the nose and did not fade away even after a long time. Along the way, he didn't say anything, which actually made Deng Bin somewhat uncertain. After hesitating for a moment, Deng Bin looked at Jiang Chen and asked tentatively, "In just 3 days, they already slaughtered more than 60 of us. Truly grateful to you, us survivors from Qingpu. If there is anything we can help you with, we'll do our absolute best." "I've already said not to worry about it." Jiang Chen, however, didn't directly answer. Instead, he only responded in a brief sentence before no longer speaking. While Deng Bin's heart was still apprehensive, the two had arrived in front of the town hall. To his surprise, the leader of the mysterious organization didn't seem to have the intention to go in. Rather, he just stood in front of the town hall. Did it deserve to be called a government building? It was aesthetically built, and based on the damage, it could be considered the only intact building in the entire town. "Say, was there a person called Lin Kaon who came to your place before?" Deng Bin was a bit stunned for a moment, as he didn't expect Jiang Chen would suddenly ask this irrelevant question. Frowning, he tried to recall carefully and answered, "There seems to be someone like that. He came from Jia City." "Did he not say anything to you, like how the mutated humans would be here?" Jiang Chen asked casually. Looking blankly at Jiang Chen, Deng Biniao shook his head and said, "No, he only stayed in our town for a night before leaving hastily." "Hadn't said anything." "That's extremely odd. If they desperately wanted to prevent the mutated humans from invading Wangai City, there is no reason not to alert the people here so that they can make early preparations, or at the very least, build some defensive structures." Jiang Chen slightly knitted his brows as he carefully scrutinized Deng Bin's eyes. "It doesn't seem like he's pretending at all." "How did you remember him? What I mean is there anything special about him that made you take a closer look at him?" There was one. Because the people passing through Zhufeng Highway were usually lone travelers from GSCTY, they come here to dig a few components or microchips from military equipment. These things would sell well anywhere in the mainland. The worst-case scenario is that they would go to Liuding Town to buy a few boxes of canned fish to sell when they returned, and then the price could at least double. However, only Lin Kaon came back empty-handed. "Has he only been here once?" "Yes, he seemed to have taken another route when he went to Wangai City." Nodding thoughtfully, Jiang Chen became lost in thought. Deng Bin, standing on the side, was trying to figure out the expression on Jiang Chen's face, but couldn't manage to read the slightest useful information. He couldn't understand why Jiang Chen would suddenly ask about the lone travelers. Was there any deeper meaning in this? While he was speculating, Jiang Chen spoke again, but this time it was to ask a different question. Let's talk about something else. What do you do to earn a living? More than 700 people were not a small number. It's not the city center, so there were not enough zombies to provide organic matter that could be used to extract nutrient supply. Although there were quite a number of mutants here, they were usually powerful. If they ever hunted mutants, they didn't exactly look like a well-equipped group of survivors. We planted some crops on the farms outside the town to extract nutrient supplies. Deng Bin looked at Jiang Chen in the eyes and said cautiously. The fruit of the mutant plants could not be eaten, but it could be used as an excellent raw material for the extraction of nutrient supplies. Many survivors in Qingpu would also plant such crops on the roof and go to the 6th Street to exchange for crystals or nutrient supplies. Oh, what is the degree of soil contamination here? What about the radiation? Seeing that Jiang Chen seemed to be showing no interest in the nutrient supply in the warehouse, Deng Bin felt slightly relieved and muttered, "It seems to be 9 and 20. With regards to this, he didn't have to lie about it. The two numbers were easy to measure. The radiation value could be measured by EP, and the soil contamination would only require to take a sample and then to drop 2 drops of reagent. 9, very good. Jiang Chen suddenly laughed and then reached out and patted Deng Bin on the shoulder. From this day onwards, you'll be in charge of the farm. Deng Bin paused while looking completely dumbfounded. He couldn't understand the meaning behind his words. Farm me. Jiang Chen smiled, looked at him and said, That's right, who else would it be? Swallowing his saliva, Deng Bin was still bewildered and asked, If you want those mutated fruits, we are willing to pay tribute to you. Those things were not worth money at all, and not to mention the price of organic matter was declining. Even with the price 2 months ago, 1 ton of fruit could only extract 100 nutrient supplies which could be exchanged for 10 crystals. The Reaper rifle alone in their hands was worth 20. Thus, they didn't need to care about this small profit. Jiang Chen raised his hand to interrupt him. You misunderstood me. We don't care about those rotten fruits that you planted. It was the truth. Fishbone Base didn't need nutrient supply. Then you mean? Am I still not direct enough? Former mayor, I need you to take care of my farm for me. There were 2 words Jiang Chen emphasized, and they were former mayor and my. Upon hearing this, Deng Bin's face instantly paled, his eyes widened. You want to occupy our homes, you can't do. But we can. The mutated humans are going to cross this river, and I will prevent that from happening, and so we're here. But all of them are dead now. Deng Bin had difficulty speaking. Jiang Chen looked strangely at Deng Bin. He smiled and said, Are we having a misunderstanding here? You think we are here on a special trip to rescue you? I am sorry to tell you, but we are only fighting against the mutated humans, and this place is only the outpost I captured from them. Moreover, in accordance with the rules of the wasteland, since I saved you, you are all my captives. Deng Bin's lips trembled and couldn't utter a single word. His previous thought was they were saved, but in the end, it was just a change of ownership. Seeing that he had no reaction, Jiang Chen could also not care any less. They will be back. Furthermore, there would be more of them, but I will defend here. Stamping his foot, he pointed towards the ground beneath his foot. And from now on, this is my colony.